Hello everyone, welcome to What If Quirkless Deku Becomes Assassin from Assassin's Creed, Altair's Movie 1. Before we start, please go support Luis on 2234V for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. He is a shy person. That's his facade. A vigilante who fights for the good of Japan as a simple Quirkless. A Quirkless with a lot of courage. He is a general student, he doesn't like to stand out at all. A showdown between hero courses? Do I have to participate? Be a hero? Holy shit. We are Proshin the Pro, the brother in brothers. Who is it, Altair? I was running through the big buildings of the famous city of Tokyo. How can I escape from all the heroes? Nobody noticed him. His step was so soft that not even a fly flew away despite him. Even from All Might. His mission was simple: arrive, work, kill, and leave. There was no problem with his plan. Nemu Jireko, Japan's biggest drug lord, is currently enjoying himself in his raised swimming pool on the 80th floor of his personal building. A very beautiful pool that jutted out from the building. Those who looked from below could swear that it was floating water, as they did not notice the thin layer of glass that kept it stable in the air. He got up from his lounger and took off his robe. His somewhat limp and plump body was what his armed bodyguards had to see. With a little disgust at his walk, he took a dip in his pool, enjoying the refreshing water sinking him. But before going out to appreciate the view from above, simply looking down, he wanted to enjoy a good drink. So raising his hand made it clear what he wanted. And in what he waited, he simply rested his hands on the edge. Okay, I think that with this, that son of a hitch will finally stop. He had a personal grudge against the man he had attacked. He was an evil person, a person who had killed thousands of people just for his own benefit, in his own words, a plague on the world. He had some adhesive bandages on his forearms which he used to climb the glass without being discovered. He reached the end of the building and where the pool's relief began. Using a rotating plate, he took out one of the ropes and tied it tightly to the structure. After that, he looked down. There was a fall of 80 floors. He took a deep breath and, peeling the bandage off the building's glass, stuck it to the pool's glass. Then he did the same with the other one. Now he was suspended. One misstep, and his death will be immediate. He began to move with his bandages until he was in the part of the pool that leads directly to the ground when falling, and there. That's where his work began. He placed the bandages firmly and with a rope began to tie knots in the holes that they had until it was like a chair. The boy sat on it, and from his briefcase he took out what seemed to be a small drill with a golden tip. Nemu slowly finished her drink, not knowing what was happening. He began to drill the glass, which, thanks to its strength, did not break. After making a small hole in the bag, I drilled what looked like a nail and fitted it right into the hole. Nemu, after finishing her drink, calmly and quietly placed her feet on the edge of her pool and pushed off so she could begin to swim to the end of it. The mysterious masked man took a small syringe from his briefcase and inserted it into the small plastic that the strange nail carried. Nemu looked down and appreciated the view. The only thing she could see was a hooded man hanging from his pool, and seconds later the glass began to crack. The boy just smiled and, taking off his bandages, let himself fall, and thanks to the rope tied to the axis, he was able to reach the same wall from which he climbed. Nemu tried to swim up quickly as she saw the glass cracking. The hooded man began to quickly turn the axis to see how the rope was attracted, and the glass broke. The water began to fall, resulting in a small whirlpool that was lost in the height. Nemu tried to go up faster, but the whirlpool attracted him and finally, he fell. The masked man with a smile just released the rope from his waist, and thanks to the blindfold he began to slowly fall down the wall which he climbed until he reached a window through which he entered. He quickly took off his hood and put on blue janitor clothes, while I watched Nemu fall from the window. The boy walked out of the building calmly as he watched people begin to approach with horror, fear, and disgust the mutilated body of Nemu, who had not survived the fall. Businessman and tycoon Nemu Jireko died today after falling from the 80th floor due to a fault in the glass of his swimming pool. Father, wow, that sounds bad, he said, feeling bad for the aforementioned. But the priest quickly lowered the volume on his radio when he saw a group of young people approaching the doors of the church. Father, oh yeah? What are you? Oh, Shiozaki girl, it's you, how can I help you? The father asked with a calm smile. Ibra, nothing father, I just brought my friends to church for a while. It's always good to come and thank God from time to time, she said with an angelic smile. A pleasure. It was the sound of everyone in unison as they bowed, greeting the father. Father, nice to meet you too. Well, you can come in, but try not to make too much noise. A young man has been here for a while and he looks very concentrated, said the father, pointing to a boy on his knees on one of the church benches. I am glad to see that more and more young people want to get closer to God our Lord, he said with a slightly proud smile. Ibra, well father, thanks for letting us through, and who knows? Maybe you'd like to join us, she said with a small smile, while some of her group agreed. They all went through and sat on different benches formed by groups of friends. It was not the girls' main plan, but you have to start somewhere. Ibara, Kendo, Reiko, Monoma and Tetsu were the ones who sat on a bench behind the boy who had been praying there for a while. Tetsu and Monoma sat together, and without caring much they began to chat. Ibara, Kendo and Reiko were not bothered. Both girls simply imitated the action of Ibara and the boy and began to pray in silence. But Monoma and Tetsu did not keep quiet, and even laughed a little loudly from time to time. The girls had started to get a little annoyed, but could you please shut the hell up? Without opening his eyes and without stopping to join his hands, the boy spoke. Monoma and Tetsu quickly fell to turn to see him. Monoma, hey, what's your problem? This annoying guy asked. Kendo, no Monoma, you will not cause a problem here, he said, opening his eyes slightly, trying to intimidate his partner to keep quiet. None, but I'm asking you to shut your mouth. I want to pray in silence. Ibara, yes, we are very sorry. Monoma, please shut up. Monoma, no, I'm not going to shut up. No idiot is going to tell me that. Monoma couldn't continue as he felt a blade stick to his neck. Everyone in the bank stepped back a little when they saw a small knife extending from the boy's wrist. Monoma, let me, he became nervously as he began to swallow hard. The temple of God is a place where there should be respect and silence, not troublesome idiots like you, but hey, you're lucky that my time to leave has come. Think about your mistakes. The little knife simply hid back in his sleeve and, as if nothing had happened, he began to make his way towards the exit of the church. Kendo, you see what you provoke. Monoma, they almost killed you. Whisper is a little forceful. Monoma, sorry, I didn't know that this would happen, he whispered with a little fear while taking his neck. Ibara, oh God, please forgive my partner. With a pleading tone he returned to his knees while bowing his head before the statue of Jesus. Tetsu, what just happened? He asked with a little fear. Monoma, even I don't know. Don't know. I arrive at a quick pace towards what seemed to be a large campus, the UA Academy campus. He simply walked with his quick pace until he reached a large building. It was a dormitory complex with large letters marked 1H. He entered calmly while slowly taking off his cap, revealing his curly and unruly extravagant green hair. Hey Midoriya, you got off work? Everyone turned to see him. He was a little sweaty and wearing his janitor's suit, so they guessed the most obvious thing. He had just gotten off work. Izuku, yes, I'm home now, he said with a slight smile. Credo and an R in Proshin. He had dinner with his companions. That was the only thing that kept someone like him sane. And tell me, Midoriya, how did it go today? A girl asked with a slight smile. Izuku, well, what can I tell you? I cleaned the whole building and went back. Does it really take you so long to clean a building? One of them asked, confused. Izuku, 80 floors you say, Izuku said with a bit of sarcasm so that the other would nod in understanding. And there aren't more janitors? I mean, in an 80-story building I don't think they'd be so stingy as to hire just one guy who doesn't even get paid what he deserves. Why don't you just quit that job, Midoriya? We already told you that. Izuku, no guys, I can't depend on you. I really appreciate what you want to do for me. But believe me, I'm fine. When we leave the academy I will invent things for heroes and I don't know what, and I will be able to live off of that. Really, Izuku replied with a slight smile. Come on, Midoriya, at least let us pay you for a month, okay? It won't be a bother for us. Izuku just stayed silent for a while. He didn't even know why he was rejecting them. he really needed to pay that month. If he didn't, they would expel him for non-payment. Izuku, okay guys, thanks really, he said with a small smile, so everyone agreed with a big one. Well, then everything is settled, let's finish eating because… The girl couldn't continue because the doors were opened. At that moment Izuku grabbed her wrist somewhat quickly but relaxed when he saw that it was only the director. Nizu, good evening, young people. Please forgive me for interrupting you so late. With his classic smile he entered the 1H dorms while everyone bowed as he passed. Nizu, well, I'll be quick to what I was talking about. It turns out that, as you may have found out, both hero courses 1A and 1B will have a confrontation between them as training and improvement for their quirks, in which their partner Hitoshi Shinso will participate. He said this so that everyone would turn to see a purple-haired man who was simply looking at his cell phone, but also as a compliment we wanted to choose a student to also have the opportunity to enter the hero course B. I know it may not be the best in terms of performance and experience, but they would have the opportunity to be heroes. So next, I will say who we selected to participate. He began to move his finger pointing at several students. Izuku didn't care, he simply wasn't interested in the idea. Too bad fate doesn't always play in his favor. Nizu Izuku Midoriya. Izuku what? No, I reject it. Nizu, you can't refuse, Mr. Midoriya. Izuku, and why not? Nizu, because it would be very high capacity for you to go. Izuku opened his eyes in surprise and a little nervousness. He understood perfectly what the director meant even though the others couldn't. The director knew his identity. Izuku, how come? Nizu, but well, Mr. Midoriya, it is a pleasure that you have accepted. We will see you both first thing tomorrow at the beta camp. Good evening, dear students. Good evening, director, they all said with a bow as they said goodbye to the rodent. Isn't that great, Midoriya? Now you'll have the chance to be a hero, an excited girl shouted. Izuku, yeah, great, he replied vaguely as he watched the director leave. Night had fallen. Everyone was in their rooms enjoying the sleep that the night brought with it except for one. Izuku, where the buck is it? He searched his entire room for a camera, a microphone, something that would tell him how the director found out his identity. Izuku, no one was supposed to know, no one was supposed to. How the hell could he find out? He just kept searching without any results. Izuku, nothing, he complained with a heavy sigh as he looked around his messy room. He had no choice, and he wouldn't leave anything for tomorrow. He wasn't one of those, not caring how his room was. He grabbed his hood and simply went out the window. He ran through the UA buildings. According to what he knew from his informant, at that time the director was still in his office. Unfortunately, he had to go through the roof of all the dormitories to get there because 1H was the farthest. He ran and jumped. He went through G, F, E, D, E. He hadn't had any mishaps or encounters. For some reason he liked to work more at night. But unfortunately that night the different one played against him. He went up to the 1B building, just one more building, but unfortunately, there were still people awake and on the roof. Kendo, who are you? She asked, putting herself on guard just like the rest of the companions present. Izuku, don't care girl, I have to go, I can't waste my time with idiots. He tried to run away, although he wouldn't admit it. It would be difficult for him to beat a group of heroes in training, but unfortunately for him, one of them had a quirk to keep him at bay. Ibra, stay still, she ordered while tying him with her vines. Izuku, loosely girl, you don't know what you're getting into. Reiko, no, Ibra, don't let go, why did you come up here? Who are you and what are you doing? Izuku, let me go, or you'll regret it. Ibra had gotten a new technique through effort, intimidation. She brought Izuku closer to her, and using a remaining vine she made it sharp and began to pass it near his neck. Ibra, now you will tell us what you want. Izuku, no, your beliefs in God make it impossible for you to kill, so let go, before I put mine aside to kill you. Everyone fell silent. Ibra's intimidation had always been effective since she perfected it, but this guy, it's as if he knew her. Ibra, how do you know I believe in God? She asked a little scared. Izuku, I always pass by the church, and I always see you sitting there. I admire your beliefs, Shiozaki, don't think I don't, but it would be a shame if because of some stupidity you stopped going or living, right? Ibra quickly undid her vines, releasing the boy who only began to rub his wrist a little. Izuku, good decision, Miss Shiozaki. I hope you don't make a stupid mistake next time. Izuku grabbed Tetsu with force, slamming him against the ground and grabbing his neck. Tetsu turned to metal when he saw that his attack hadn't worked, but even then he couldn't escape. Tetsu, how much strength do you have? He asked with a nervous smile. He didn't want to succumb to fear. Izuku, enough to dent the metal, he stated as he slowly squeezed the boy's neck. He began to laugh slowly. His laughter flooded everyone's body with an unshakable fear that made them want to run away. Tetsu was scared, but he didn't want to fall, although out of nowhere he felt how his neck stopped being squeezed. Izuku, you're lucky my creed forbids me from killing innocents. I grabbed Tetsu by the shirt and lift him up with some force only for everyone to see him start to cough. Izuku, don't get in my way again, because from innocent you will become enemies, you are warned. Izuku simply left, jumping from the edge of the building. Everyone looked scared down but saw how he began to jump between the branches of the trees. Yui, what just happened? Reiko, we just disturbed a murderer. What? Was everyone's question. Reiko, her clothing is identical to that of the assassins of yesteryear. Kendo, assassins of yesteryear? Reiko, yes, the Alliance of Assassins. Alliance of Assassins, it was the whisper of everyone in confusion. Elsewhere. He was preparing a tea in his desolate office, until the lights suddenly went out and from one second to the next he appeared. Nizu, you should stop your dramatic entrances, Mr. Midoriya, you might scare me. Izuku, how did you know and why do you want me in the hero course? He raised his voice to a little and Nizu didn't care anymore. He began to move the tea bag inside the hot water only to put it aside, taking effect. Nizu, easy, Mr. Midoriya. You are of no use to me in the general course. I need you in the hero course, more specifically in course 1B. Izuku, and why in 1B? Nizu, because. He sipped his tea, while the raindrops began to fall hard, accompanied by a thunderbolt resulting in a small thunderstorm. I need you to kill the professional hero Vlad King. Izuku, what? Strategies. Years ago. My father will kill you, do you know? He asked with grace while raising his hands when he saw that they were pointing at him. Does your father know that you are an infiltrator from the other country? The attacker asked. Come on, Vlad, just join me. I could even give you half the money, he said, trying to seem calm, but he was nervous. Vlad, before being a bastard traitor, I am someone who joined the army to serve his country and save his country. Besides, I have a son waiting for me at home after this last battle. I can't let him down. Oh yeah, that guy, Izuku Midoriya. How is the baby you picked up from the dumpster? Vlad, you don't care like this, so now make up your mind, turn yourself in or die. Yeah, well, being a fugitive isn't in my plans. Vlad, okay then. Vlad could not continue as he watched with some shock as the guy pulled out a knife and without hesitation, with almost invisible speed, cut his neck, thus ending his life. Vlad, fine, I'll just save myself the trouble, he said calmly as he began to walk to what would be his last war. Presented. Nizu, now you know why I want to kill you, right? Izuku, with all due respect, Director, you as. Nizu, I adopted him when I had financial stability, Nizu said without letting the green-haired boy finish. He was my only emotional stability. I felt proud when he wanted to go to the army, and then they informed me that the bastard Vlad killed him. Izuku, then, why did you let him enter your academy? Izuku asked, confused. Nizu, easy, young Midoriya. I knew you would come to this academy. It was just a matter of waiting for you to sign up to take the exam, but I never expected the general courses. But oh well, I won't stray from the subject. What do you think? Do we have a deal? Izuku, I don't know a professional hero who is also a soldier? Nizu, the creed of a martyr is of yours who has a bad. Izuku, how do you know that belief? Izuku asked, static with surprise. Nizu, easy, Mr. Midoriya. I know you don't recognize me, because this happened a long time ago. He gave himself a little treat to drink some tea. It was very nice with the storm that was brewing. Nizu, I was the main donor to the Assassin Foundation. Izuku, what? Nizu, your brotherhood owes me a lot and today I want to collect that favor. Izuku sighed heavily and remained silent for a while, beginning to tap his shoe with the tip of the shoe and the ground. He thought for a long time, 5 minutes of pure silence where Nizu simply sipped his tea. Izuku, give me 2 months to kill him, then I'll have to leave this academy. Nizu, and that would be why? Izuku, I'll use the element of surprise, I'll make him trust me, and then I'll kill him in the middle of class. No one will expect it, and no one will suspect it, okay? He asked as he extended his hand. Nizu, fine, I'll wait for you at the training camp tomorrow. Bring whatever you want. He said this so Izuku would nod. A large bolt of lightning struck, causing the light to go out for a brief moment, at which point Izuku also left. Director Nizu just took one last sip of his tea, left the empty cup next to his desk and taking the keys to his modified car, he left his office. The next day, Izuku played with a knife, throwing it and catching it while looking at the ceiling. He had many things to think about. But he quickly grabbed the knife tightly and pointed it at his door when he heard a knock. Izuku, who is it? Shinso, hey man, we have to go to that training, we're running late. Shinso said a little sleepy. Izuku, hey Shinso, if you wait I'll just put on my physics uniform and go with you. Shinso just nodded and leaned against the wall for a moment so he could wait for him. Izuku simply washed his face a little and put on his physics uniform accompanied by his hidden blade and a sleeve to cover it. He was ready, and he knew that the moment he walked out that door, his mission would begin. He left his room meeting Shinso. Both nodded and silently began to walk towards where the training camp would be. They did not exchange many words. Not for nothing they were both known as the quiet ones of the UA. They did not exchange words with anyone who was not an acquaintance, and between them there was no need for communication. Shinso, okay, we're here. Are you ready for this? Izuku, you know I'm always ready for anything. He said this so Shinso would nod. A few more steps were enough to reach where all the classes were gathered. Vlad saw Izuku for a moment, and smiled slightly without anyone noticing. Aizawa, well, these are the students who will move on to Class A, and Class B accordingly, Aizawa mentioned so that several agreed. Mina, hey Professor Aizawa, who will be going with us? A pink-skinned girl asked excitedly. Aizawa, he said, giving Shinso a little push. Oh, so you'll be the new one in Class B? Everyone watched with a drop of sweat as Monoma began to approach the boy dangerously. Izuku just breathed heavily and looked at Shinso, only for him to nod. Izuku, yes, I'm Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you, he said nervously, extending his hand. How cute, they all thought. You don't have to be nervous, bro. Now you're in the best class, you're in Class B. Izuku watched without any concern as Monoma fell to the ground due to a blow from the orange-haired girl who tried to question him yesterday. Kendo, I'm really sorry. Monoma is a bit, she said, a little nervous. Izuku, why yes, no problem. Kendo, but for the first time I take your word for it, you shouldn't be nervous. Come, meet your new teammates. Kendo took the green-haired boy's hand to begin leading him towards where the rest of the room was. Izuku couldn't care less, but he had to pretend that he did care. He couldn't let them discover his facade. Kendo, hey guys, everyone turns to look at her. I want to introduce you to Midoriya. He will be our new partner starting next week. A pleasure, they all said in unison, bowing slightly. So you will be our new friend. Izuku grabbed her wrist with some force when he saw how she was going to put her arm around his neck. Everyone remained a little static and surprised. Hey, are you okay? The boy asked, confused and worried, and in a little pain from the grip. Izuku, yeah, sorry about that. My quirk, it's enhanced reflexes. My body acts on its own. Izuku lied with a nervous smile. Oh, it's okay, old man, no problem. By the way, I'm Tetsu, the boy said with a big smile, hugging him by the neck. Ibara, I am Ibara Shiozaki. It is a blessing from God that your presence is now in our classroom, she mentioned, joining her hands in a sign of prayer. Izuku, yes, likewise, he answered, bowing. Hey, and you, do you have a girlfriend? He mischievously asked as he dangerously approached the green-haired boy. Izuku just gave a mental sigh. Izuku, and no, I don't have a girlfriend. And you wouldn't like it? Kendo, Setsuna, behave yourself, you scare him scolding, she's a little upset. Setsuna, oh come on, you always want the handsome guys for yourself, Setsuna whispered with a pout. What the hell is going on? Izuku thought with a drop of sweat. Vlad, okay brats, listen to what's going to happen. Everyone turns to look at him. All the teams are already formed. There are 8 teams in total and they will face each other with the other class. Midoriya will go in the first and the last, and Shinso in the second and third, and it will be like this. First Izuku will go with the Class B team, the Shiozaki team, and then with the Class A team, Team Midoriya. You are the leader, Vlad said so that Izuku would nod. Shinso will go in the second confrontation with Class B, and in the third with Class A. Understood? Shinso nods. Good. It's time to start. Everyone was in their positions. Izuku's group was making a plan while he just kept quiet. He was very thoughtful. The night before. Nizu, well, do you know your plan? Izuku, yes, let me be defeated by the weaker and win with the stronger. So they won't be very sure of my current level and they won't be able to frame me. He said this so that Nizu would nod. Nizu, well, you have everything ready, Mr. Midoriya. Presented. Midoriya. Izuku, oh, what's wrong? He asked, coming out of his thoughts. Ibara, did you understand the plan or do you want us to go over it again? She asked, confused. Izuku just stayed silent for a while and monitored Ibara. They could swear that for a moment his eyes shone. Izuku, no, I understood the plan, fine, let's put it to the test. He said this so that everyone agreed and started running. They ran all over the training ground looking for the enemies, until Ibara stopped them. Ibara, wait, I detect something. I mentioned this so that everyone stops dead. There they come. Everyone watched as Denki Kaminari, a student from Class 1A, approached, not with the intention of giving up. 1.2 million volts. Ibara reacted quickly and by making a cocoon with her vines they were able to protect themselves from the electricity. Ibara, fine, I'll take care of him, I'll repel his electricity. But without anyone noticing, Izuku cut the cocoon with a quick and clean cut. Ibara, what? No one could react in time when the large amount of electricity enveloped them. They began to scream loudly, which was enough for Kaminari to stop. Everyone was unconscious except for Izuku, who was very surprised to see that he was intact. Bad luck, that wouldn't help them win. Aizawa, there is only one participant left from the B-class team, therefore this confrontation is won by the A-class by the greater number of conscious participants. Class A began to celebrate their classmates' victory while Class B mourned their own. Now what are you planning? Brad Aizawa thought, confused. What's wrong, kid? You're not one to lose, Vlad thought, a little surprised. The fights passed again. The next one was joy for Class B since it was the winner. The next fight ended in a draw, but with pride, the power of Todoroki and the resistance of Tetsu were brutal. After that came the last fight, Izuku's team versus Monoma's team. Okay, everyone to your places, Vlad shouted so that everyone started to go to their positions. Let's see what you do with a weak team, brat, Vlad thought, a little excited to see Izuku's capabilities afloat. Mina, well, do you have a plan, Midoriya? She asked, confused. Izuku, yes, how much can you trust a stranger? Izuku asked, confusing everyone. Uraraka, why do you ask that, Midoriya? Asked a slightly chubby girl. Izuku, I need you to trust me, and stay here, leave everything to me. Hey Midoriya, I know you might like to show off to the girls, but… Izuku, no, that's not my reason, I want to get this over with quickly, I have a job to go do. Izuku hadn't remembered that he had to eliminate someone. Mina, but wouldn't it be better if we all went? Izuku, no, I have my plan, you just stay behind me, okay? He asked. They stood in silence for a moment, analyzing what their companion had just told them. Mineta, fine, but if you need help we will intervene. Izuku, fine, thanks, okay. Start, Vlad shouted. Time to go, he this said when to start running. Everyone watched through the cameras in amazement as Izuku began to climb a pipe on the training stage, and with great ease and balance began to run across it. His team only followed him from a distance from below. Izuku, okay now? Jumping from the tube, he was able to dodge what appeared to be a giant oil barrel that was heading towards him. As he jumped, he looked down and could see how Monoma, Reiko, and Yui were waiting for him. Yui took what appeared to be some nuts and threw them into the air and made them giant, only for Reiko to direct them towards the green-haired man. Monoma, sorry Midoriya, but for now you are from Class A, so lose for us. Such a cold smile on his face. That was his master plan. It was flawless. But with a little fear, the team saw how Izuku did a flip in the air, passing right in the middle of the nuts. Yui prepared more small objects, and Reiko prepared to make them float, but Izuku tightly grabbed a metal tube and gave himself more momentum towards the team's back, fell right on a vertical base, and threw himself towards them. They tried to dodge it, but it was too late. Izuku put his feet on Yui and Reiko's back and forcefully slammed them against the ground. Everyone saw this with fear, but even more scared as Monoma tried to hit him to rescue his companions, and an old memory came to him when he saw how Izuku took out a small knife from his wrist to put it on his neck. In the chambers. Ibara, that technique, Ibara said, a little surprised. Kendo, yes, it's the one the boy used when we went to church. Setsuna, oh, what do you mean? Setsuna asked, confused. Tetsu, who would have thought it? Coincidences are really surprising, he said, surprised, leaving aside the mystery of Setsuna. Kinoko, but in their previous confrontation he looked so weak. Setsuna, but what do they mean by the church? Ibara, Midoriya used the same technique of putting a knife to Monoma's neck that magically came out of his hand when he didn't keep quiet in the church, she said, a little scared. Is this some kind of plan of yours, you brat? Aizawa asked mentally as he watched the green-haired boy through the cameras with pride. In the fight. Monoma, it's you, Monoma exclaimed, a little surprised. Izuku, I'm sorry, no hard feelings. Monoma punched Izuku in the face with some force. He was scared, but he had a plan. Izuku, sorry to tell you this, but what was that? Izuku asked, a little surprised when he felt the weak blow. Monoma, strategy, he said with a nervous smile. Izuku flew out when he felt a second punch hit his face and was slammed into some pipes. As he looked up, he could see a chubby boy in a strange costume approaching Monoma, while Yui and Reiko slowly got up from the ground. Yui, you just took us by surprise, she said, a little upset. Reiko, and that won't happen again. Izuku raised his hand and clenched his fist as he saw the boys starting to fight. They took this signal as if they weren't to come closer, and they didn't. Monoma, I didn't know you were a proud Midoriya, Monoma said, smiling a little. Izuku, you are the last person to talk to me about this. Reiko, there are 4 of us against 1, it's useless. Izuku, yes, it seems very unfair to me for you. Bending his own arms, he grabbed the pipe tightly and at an almost inhuman speed began to climb them. Yui tried to throw enlarged nuts at him, but they simply didn't hit him. Izuku fell to his knees next to his companions who were watching the fight. Uraraka, do you want us to help you? She asked seriously. Izuku, no, just watch. Izuku ran hard and everyone watched with a little fear as he threw himself from the top of the tube. Yui was not stupid. She would not make the same mistake. She threw a nut that had no holes. It was a forceful blow. Izuku started running over her. What? Was the cry of everyone in unison. Izuku fell hard on the boy from the double impact, leaving him unconscious, and using his body as support, he jumped towards Yui, hung from her shoulders and, turning around, hit her neck so that she also fell to the ground. Izuku, well, now it's 2 against 1, Izuku said mockingly, making Reiko frown a little. Reiko, Monoma now. Monoma, yes. 10 barrels that seemed to be made of heavy metal began to head towards Izuku. Monoma had copied Reiko's quirk by expanding the movement capacity. Izuku just cracked his neck a little and started running towards them. He masterfully dodged the barrels by jumping over them or sliding under them. He passed under Reiko's legs, making her blush heavily. That was his perfect distraction. Izuku got up from the ground and hit him hard on the neck, causing him to slowly fall unconscious. Reiko, no, I didn't notice when. Reiko fell into unconsciousness, and before Monoma could do anything quickly, a knife was placed on her neck again. Monoma, I give up, he said with his hands raised. Class A is the winner, Aizawa shouted boredly. Everyone began to applaud with joy. some with resignation, but Izuku only saw Vlad from a distance, who had not noticed his gaze. Phase 1 completed, Izuku thought as he breathed heavily. Elither prother and prother and prother and prother and prow. Izuku shook Monoma's hand. He hesitated for a moment, but took it. Monoma, good fight, old man, he said with a slight smile. Izuku, yes, I say the same thing, he agreed in a calm tone. Monoma, although I think you went a little too far, he said with a drop of sweat when he saw how all his companions were unconscious. Izuku, sorry, it was the only way to win without recognizing each other? He asked, extending his hand. Monoma, yes, we will be partners. In one way or another it makes me proud, he said, hitting him. Izuku, okay, help me. Izuku couldn't continue, because the speakers turned on, drawing everyone's attention. Nizu, well, as you can see, young Midoriya has excellent abilities. What are you planning, damn rat? Izuku thought seriously. Nizu, so, before he officially enters the hero course, how about watching a fight between him and 2 people from each course who I think can stop him? Aizawa, and how would that be, Director Nizu? He asked, confused from below. Nizu, a singles fight, between him and the young ones, Kirishima Ejiro, Katsuki Bakugo, Kinoko Komori and Itsuka Kendo, each one following the other, until the young Midoriya loses or wins. Vlad, and what would be the reason for that? Nizu, well then, since everyone is informed, I want the aforementioned young people to prepare themselves, and I need young Midoriya here with me. Thank you, he said to turn off the speakers. Monoma, wow, you've got a tough old man, he said, a little surprised. Izuku, yes, I don't know what I gained from this, but well, take the serious one, I'll take the fat one and the ghost, he said so that Monoma would nod. Then Monoma carried Yui on his back just as Izuku carried the other boy on his and carried Reiko in his arms, and so, both of them arrived where all their companions were, and he left both boys on the ground. Izuku was about to go talk to the director, but a hand touched his shoulder. I've seen that you are strong, damn extra. Izuku, Katsuki, Bakugo. Bakugo, if you think about dying without fighting me, I will kill you, understood? He asked, squeezing his shoulder. Kirishima, excuse him, it's his way of saying that he's excited to fight you. Bakugo, shut up, bastard, that's not true, and if you die before I kill you, I'll kill you, this annoyed guy shouted as he left, taking a drop of sweat from Izuku. Izuku, the hero course is weird, Izuku said, confused by what had just happened. Hey Midoriya. Izuku, huh? Wait, you're? Itsuka Kendo. Izuku, oh, I'll face you, Izuku said calmly. Kendo, yes, I expect a good fight, he said, extending his fist. Izuku, I don't know, we'll see on the field, he said this so Kendo would nod. So Izuku just turned around and started walking towards where the main was. Nizu watched with his calm smile as Izuku approached him. His serious face always made him laugh for some reason, a reason that bothered Izuku. Izuku, okay, what are you planning? Izuku asked, annoyed. Nizu, simple young Midoriya, I want you to show that you are strong, he said with a smile without turning to look at him. Izuku, this wasn't part of the plan. Nizu, remember, this is my plan, young man, and I'll make whatever changes I think are right. Izuku, you don't make changes without consulting me, I'll get my hands dirty, I must know everything. Nizu, don't question me, young man. Izuku, if I want you to right now you die, so tell me, now. Nizu, you know your intimidation doesn't work on me, young man, but it's okay if you insist. I need you to see that you are strong. Izuku, what is the reason? Izuku asked, confused. Nizu, so that when I cut Vlad's neck, no one can act. Izuku, and do you think we'll get that with simple fights? He asked, confused. Nizu, you fight against the best of each class, then you will gradually fight more people from each class until they know that you are in charge, that you have the power to finish them off if you want. Fear stops Midoriya. Fear is the feeling that does not allow you to act, and that is why you need to implant fear. Izuku, so you want me to slaughter them? He asked, confused. Nizu, only those from Course A. Beat both girls from Course B with kindness. They must be afraid and trust you at the same time, understood? He said this so that Izuku would nod. Izuku, well, when will the confrontation begin? He asked this so that Niza laughed a little. Niza now. Izuku was in the middle of the training camp. Setsuna, do you think I can take on the four of them? She asked while playing with her hair. Always, I sincerely doubt it very much. Midoriya may have been able to defeat the four in training, but this time he will face four people who have quirks that can counter his. Yui, by the way, what will his quirk be? Setsuna, you saw it, you should know. She said this for everyone to nod. Yui, no, he never used his quirk against me. That's because Midoriya is quirkless. Everyone at that moment with their eyes wide open turned to see the purple-haired boy who was simply watching the countdown on the screen. Todoroki, oh, what do you mean by that? Shinso, Midoriya, you don't have any quirk, he said with a slight smile. Momo, you have to get him out of there, they're going to kill him, the dark-haired girl screamed in fear. Shinso, don't worry about them killing him, worry about him not doing it first. 3. Setsuna, oh, what do you mean? 2. Shinso, you'll see. 1. Shinso, everyone will see it. The horns sounded, and the first person walked through the door. Izuku was silent, and for a moment he closed his eyes listening to their footsteps. Izuku, oh, the noisy one comes first. Where are you, damn extra? Izuku, I don't see the need to tell me, strange. Izuku began to climb one of the field's tubes as he began to go deeper and deeper into the darkness. Kirishima, hiding is one of the best strategies when you are at a disadvantage. Shinso, of course, disadvantage, he said, nodding with some mockery. Izuku ran through the darkness that the stage provided him. He was not an idiot. In a fight against an explosive quirk, it would be difficult for him to win. He will not have enough capacity or speed to dodge an explosion. Show yourself a coward. Izuku knew that for this fight he needed nothing more than relaxation and his sight. It was not necessary to face each other face to face. He sat on the ground and, closing his eyes, he began to meditate. Is he sleeping? They all shouted with a drop of sweat. Todoroki, no, he's meditating, Todoroki said, a little surprised. Reiko, and why would I meditate right at a time like this? She asked while sitting on the floor. Her head still hurt a little. Monoma, I don't know, I'd have to see to find out, he said while everyone agreed. They will be in for a surprise, Shinso thought with a slight smile. Bakugo exploded with fury while he searched for the green-haired boy. He couldn't find him, and that bothered him. Bakugo, where are you, idiot? Izuku quickly got up from the ground and began to run. Everyone watched in amazement as his step was gentle and at the same time precise. But what surprised them the most was that at no time did he open his eyes, and he always passed by millimeters in the holes, until he stopped abruptly. Pony, he stopped, she said, a little confused. Tokoemi, what is I planning? He asked, confused. Izuku was lying in the darkness. In front of him he could see the training camp again and Bakugo in the distance. Bakugo, where are you, damn extra? Izuku, just 10 more seconds. Bakugo quickly, thanks to his explosions, got closer and closer to the place where the green-haired boy was without knowing he was there. Bakugo, show yourself. Izuku, 5 seconds. What is I planning? Aizawa thought, confused. What is going on, son? Vlad asked himself in his thoughts, also confused. Bakugo, I want to fight you. 3. Izuku put his tiptoes on the ground. 2. Bakugo remained suspended in the air for a while as he began to generate heat in his hand. 1. Bakugo, if you don't show yourself, I'll blow up the whole damn place. Everyone watched in amazement as Izuku jumped from the top of that pipe attachment and, grabbing Bakugo by the neck, began to carry him to the ground. Can you guess its trajectory? They all shouted in shock. Shinso, I told you so, he said, laughing a little. Reiko, but how was he able to know where I would go? Shinso, I don't know, it's just Midoriya. Bakugo tried to launch another explosion, but it was too late. The green-haired man slammed him into the ground and, using his hidden knife, he put it on Bakugo's chest, drawing some blood. Izuku, I'm a little sick. Bakugo, what the hell are you saying? This annoying guy asked. Izuku, shut up a bit. Izuku clenched his fist and forcefully punched Bakugo in the face. Everyone watched in shock and fear as his eyes turned white, and his hands fell to the ground. He fell unconscious. He lost. Everyone was surprised and didn't know what to say. Reiko, I calculate his trajectory. He saw the future. Shinso, no, he didn't see the future. Setsuna, so what do you think, Kendo? He asked while looking at the orange-haired girl. Kendo, I don't know, I can't find any strategy to face him, I can't see any way to beat him, so I'll keep watching. Kinoko, I already have the perfect plan, luckily I'm the last one, she said with a big smile. Izuku threw Bakugo aside, leaving him unconscious on the ground as he heard footsteps approaching. He hardened his fist and palm, and with a smile he clapped them together. Kirishima, ready for my Midoriya? Kirishima walked up to Izuku at a slow pace while he just wiped some sweat from his face and cracked his knuckles to compose himself. Izuku, Itarosia potreb Batermi, he said with a challenging smile. Ieli desting jug and foundly with. Tetsu, and who do you think will win? He asked without taking his eyes off the screen. Always, honestly, I don't even know. Midoriya is someone who simply surpassed my limits. He beat up someone who beat up us as an entire team without even attacking him, just by taking him to the ground. Honestly, I don't know what his ability is. Todoroki, maybe I can be someone strong, but not invincible, he said seriously while some affirmed. Monoma, but don't you remember what the director said? Everyone turns to look at him. The chosen ones are the only ones with a quirk capable of stopping Midoriya, so that means that maybe even Todoroki couldn't beat him, Momo whispered as everyone agreed. Kendo, Midoriya is someone extremely surprising. Everyone at Kendo's statement, and simply turned to look at the screen again, especially two girls, who would be the next to face him. Kirishima walked towards the green-haired boy while slowly activating his quirk in his body, and Izuku simply smiled nervously. Okay, this isn't iron, it's rock, but as weak as this guy may seem, he was chosen by Nisa, so he must have something. You shouldn't be too confident, Izuku thought as he took a few steps back. Kirishima, what's wrong, Midoriya? Are you afraid? He asked with a challenging smile. Kirishima didn't let him think. He quickly lunged at him and activating his quirk he was directed at his face. Izuku barely dodged it and tried to kick him in the stomach, which ended up slightly scratching his knee. Kirishima, hey, I thought you were smarter than me in combat. Tetsu, well, he started with an advantage by damaging his opponent, Tetsu said. Always, but don't you think it's strange? Setsuna, in what sense? She asked, confused. Always, Midoriya is not one to just attack out of nowhere. I studied his previous fight, he makes strategies. Kendo, now that you mention it, he's right, and if so, what is I planning? They all thought, confused. Izuku approached Kirishima again and tried to forcefully knee him in the abdomen, and the same result, his knee began to bleed a little. Kirishima, hey Midoriya, I think this is pointless. If you give up, either of us will get hurt. Izuku ignored him and gently approached Kirishima and forcefully kneeled him in the same spot. Kirishima, what are you playing? Kirishima stepped back a little while lightly rubbing his abdomen. At that moment, Izuku, between grunts of pain, began to laugh softly. Izuku, well, do you know how to confuse an idiot? Izuku asked with a smile. At that moment, everyone fell silent as Izuku began to tear off a sleeve of his uniform and put it in his pocket. Kirishima, no, how? He asked, confused. Izuku, kill him. Kirishima, what? At that moment, everyone watched in shock as Izuku launched himself at Kirishima again, but this time not at his abdomen. He quickly activated his hardening but couldn't react when Izuku fell on him. Izuku, one, he gives him a blow in the center of the face that doesn't faze Kirishima. Kirishima, it's useless, Midoriya, you can't hurt me. Izuku, 2. Everyone watched in amazement as Kirishima's skin slowly began to crack. Kirishima, what? Izuku, arrivederci, son of a hitch. The power of the blow was so great that Kirishima's face bounced off the ground as his tough skin broke and fell to the ground. At that moment, Everyone watched in amazement and fear as his hand turned red, a red that was not normal and slowly turned purple. At that moment Izuku took the sleeve out of his pocket and began to roll it around his hand, making a perfect tourniquet to stop the bleeding. But everyone watched with a bit of joy, as Kirishima slowly lifted his head off the ground, his weak eyes slowly opening and a smile painting his face. Kirishima, don't even think that. One kick with such force to his face was enough to send him crashing to the ground again. Everyone watched with fear and horror at the brutality of the fight. It was not normal. Kendo began to tremble a little. It was her turn against him, and she had not devised any strategy. She was lost. Izuku, in my jobs, no one is left conscious, at least they are left dead. Be thankful that we are in a school and I can't kill you, because in the state you are in it is my instinct to do so. He whispered through his own lips, which was not audible to anyone except Kirishima. He couldn't speak, he was tired, but he heard everything. Jobs? What is this guy talking about? Kirishima thought confusedly about the information he had just heard, but his eyes slowly opened more heavily, until he finally fell unconscious again. Izuku just pointed at the screen for everyone to see. He walked towards Kirishima and grabbed his shirt and lifted him up, only to slam him hard against the ground, and with his healthy hand, he began to hit him relentlessly over and over again. And at that moment everyone became worried when they saw how Kirishima's face began to bleed more and more, until Izuku, already tired, left him on the ground while he slowly got up. Izuku, sleep buddy. Kirishima, what did I say to you? I don't understand what you're saying. I could barely articulate words as he tried to get up from the ground, but his body was no longer responding. Izuku just laughed a little, and leaning on his knee he prostrated himself next to Kirishima's inert body, barely conscious. Izuku, I said, rest, partner. Izuku finished him off with a final blow to his neck, which sent him into permanent unconsciousness. At least for the rest of the day Izuku only saw Kirishima's inert body for a moment, and sharpening his gaze he turned to where the director was. He just calmly drank from his cup of tea, while with the same look he glared at the green-haired boy. Nizu, well, as we can see they have just brutally beaten the first two companions who had the possibility of defeating him. Now it's Miss Kendo, Midoriya. Come with me for a while. He said this through the speaker so that Izuku would nod and simply let some stretchers take Kirishima away. Izuku began to walk towards the place of the cameras to get to where Nizu was, and when he passed everyone stepped back a little out of fear. Izuku quietly just smiled, but he didn't feel when a hand rested on his shoulder and squeezed it tightly. Tetsu damages Kendo more. Monoma, and we will kill you, he said seriously. Izuku, fine, I won't hurt her more than necessary, he said with a slight smile. Monoma, what? Just like that? Aren't you going to tell us something like, I beat my victims to the end or something like that? He asked, confused. Izuku, you will be my classmates, my morals will prevent me from harming you more than I should, so tell the trembling girl over there, he said, pointing at Kendo, that the mushroom girl should not worry anymore. Tell her that she doesn't either. That I expect a healthy and calm fight, he said with a calm smile, putting his hand on Tetsu and Monoma's shoulders. Tetsu, thanks old man. We appreciate that, he said, smiling so that Izuku agreed. Izuku, now if you'll excuse me, I have to go to the main. He turns around and his smile slowly fades. I still have things to do, he said, this annoying man to speed up his pace a little. Tetsu and Monoma arrived at the orange-haired girl, who was shaking a little and walking back and forth. Monoma, Kendo. Kendo, Kia, she screamed, scared to hit Monoma. Monoma, oh. Kendo, guys, don't scare me like that. Don't you see how I am? She asked, annoyed. Tetsu, yes, but we have good news, he shouted with a big smile. Kendo, which one? Monoma, Midoriya will not hurt you more than he should, he said, also smiling. Kendo, that doesn't reassure me at all, she screamed, scared. Tetsu, but let us finish. Midoriya said that now his morals allow him to harm us more than he should because we will be his partners, so he said that neither you nor Komori should worry, that he expected a clean and healthy fight. He said this just to see how Kendo's soul was leaving. Kendo, he is not a bad person, he screamed on the ground. At that moment some people started laughing and Kinoko simply sighed a little more calmly as she felt the fears slowly go away. Nizu, so, what did you talk about with those two boys? He asked, confused, looking down at all the students. Izuku, I wouldn't hurt them now that they'll be my companions. Nizu, hey, you're doing great, he said, smiling, but he had another change to the plan. Izuku, Nizu, we already said that. Nizu, I'm asking you, right? At that moment Izuku just sighed heavily. Izuku continued. Nizu, there is a person who has a quirk capable of leaving others motionless no matter how hard they try. Izuku, I'm friends with Stain. Nizu, no, I don't mean him, I mean that girl. Then Nizu raised his finger to point at a certain person. Izuku, well, according to the record she is Reiko Yanagi, right? Nizu, yes, the only one who can make this plan fail, since if at the moment that you launch yourself against Vlad she reacts, she could leave you motionless. The other danger that I see is Miss Shiozaki, but I saw that you cut her vines with ease. Izuku, you noticed it, right? Nizu, yes, you cut them to lose. It was a waste technically because now we want to show that you are strong. Izuku, well, that doesn't matter anymore, so what do you want me to do with that girl? Do I make her disappear? Nizu, no, I want you to become his romantic partner. Izuku, are you serious? He asked, confused. Nizu, love opens many doors and closes many more. I need you to make me want you, to love you, so that when you attack, no one can stand in your way. Izuku, but what are we going to do with that girl Shiozaki? Nizu, polygamy is not an option here, kill her. Izuku, are you sure? Nizu, yes, but it must be a day before executing the plan. First make everyone gain your trust, and then. Izuku, then he acted. He finished this for Nizu to nod. Nizu, okay, you are well informed now go, you need to fight against Miss Kendo. He said this so that Izuku would nod and simply leave. Izuku, upon reaching a dark hallway where no one could see him, simply hit the hard wall and began to scratch his eyes. Izuku, why the buck do I have to do this? He shouted furiously. He is my father, the damn people I feed on, and then I have to pretend I don't know. Shit. He was hitting the wall in frustration. Until his name was heard, he had to go out to the battlefield, so ruffling his hair a little, he simply went out. To face his destiny. We are pro the blank shin the pro the blanc ally and pro the. Izuku walked towards the battlefield under everyone's vision. Izuku, well, who's next? He asked, crossing his arms. Kendo, he said, a little nervous. Izuku, okay, let's start our fight. Izuku was already a little desperate even though he didn't show it. His time was beginning to run out, but he came out of his thoughts when he felt Shinso touch his shoulder. Izuku, huh? Shinso, old man, look at this. At that moment Shinso showed his phone to the green-haired boy, making him widen his eyes a little. Izuku, shit, he screamed in shock. Shinso, do you need me to take care of it? Izuku, no, it's too dangerous for you, let me try something. He said this so Shinso would nod. Then the green-haired boy passing in front of everyone called attention by raising his hand. Izuku, I request that my third match be against the last two combatants at the same time. At that moment everyone fell silent. Are you going to fight two at once? Tetsu asked, confused. And with two people who can stop him, Setsuna said the same. And you can find out the reason for that. Midoriya, the director's calm voice, was heard through the speaker that was not part of the plan. He whispered this same. Izuku, oh yeah, I have to go to work. Someone is responsible, they all said, falling to the ground with a drop of sweat. Okay, that's acceptable. Student Kinoko Komori will join the fight, making this the last one, Nisa said over the speakers so that the slightly nervous girl would nod. Then the green-haired boy agreed in the same way, and like the other two he began to walk towards the battlefield. Izuku looked at Shinso for one last moment, and he raised his fingers, 7 fingers to be specific. Izuku, 7 minutes, he whispered this to start running to his confrontation. Kendo and Kinoko were in a part of the field plotting a plan. Kinoko, so, what are we going to do? She asked, confused. Kendo, first of all, you shouldn't trust us. Midoriya is someone extremely surprising. He said this so that Kinoko would nod, so the most reliable plan would be to not let him rest, to go all out in the first attack to have a chance of winning. Kinoko, well then I'll start with my. Her big smile as she began her attack faded as she felt Kendo push her hard and a blade cut strands of her hair. Kinoko, what? Izuku, 6 minutes. I whispered this to start running to the girls. Kinoko, mushroom wall. At that moment Izuku had to step back a little as he saw large mushrooms growing in front of him. Izuku, shit, I'm allergic to mushrooms, this annoying guy whispered. Kinoko, he's someone allergic to mushrooms, she said with a slight smile. Kendo, how can you know that? She asked, confused. Kinoko, the mushrooms that I believe can hear everything, just said it. Kendo, that means. Kinoko, yes, we will win, she said with a big smile. Izuku moved away from the mushrooms and began to climb the walls, but unfortunately for him, they spread more and more. Izuku, what the hell is going on? He asked, irritated. He's in trouble, Reiko said from the cameras. Yui, yes, Kinoko's quirk is something difficult to defeat, the black-haired girl mentioned with her expressionless face. Shinso, yes, but this fight will end in 5 minutes. Tetsu, how can you know that? He asked, confused. Setsuna, it's obvious, Zuku won't be able to fight them for long. Reiko, Zuku? Setsuna, yes, it's a good nickname, it's like Izuku, but without the I, smart, right? She asked with a proud smile. Yui, they don't even have that much confidence, and you already call him by his name? She asked, confused. Setsuna, what does it matter? Trust for later, he said, laughing, making everyone sweat a drop. But back to what we were talking about. I honestly think the fight will last 5 minutes, if not less. No matter how strong Zuku is, he is fighting against 2 people who are capable of beating him. Beating them would be very easy, Shinso, and hey, it's okay that you support your friend, but you don't have to be so self-centered either, Tetsu said with a nervous smile. Shinso just gave a slight smile as he fixed his hair and turned to look at the screen, so everyone confused did the same. Izuku prostrated himself for a moment on top of one of the tanks on the battlefield and began to scratch his face. It was already a little red as his slightly swollen hands were, and the environment was full of mushrooms. He quickly deciphered his opponent's plan, and knew that they heard him. They knew it was only a matter of time before he fell unconscious from the spores that the mushrooms released. Izuku no longer had time, he couldn't stay there for the little time he had left, so taking a deep breath he prostrated himself on the ground, and once again, he began to meditate. Are you meditating? Todoroki asked, confused. Momo, halfway through the battle, he is thinking of plans to win. No, everyone turned to look at Shinso. He already won, he said with a smile. View of the Akio d'Aquila, Izuku whispered. Everyone watched with a bit of shock and excitement as an eagle began to fly over the battlefield, large and beautiful. It spread its wings, giving speed to its flight that, for some reason, was limited to turning around the field. Kendo and Kinoko were sitting on some mushrooms she had made while chatting. Kendo, so it's just a matter of waiting for Midoriya to faint and for them to announce our victory? She asked this, so Kinoko agreed. Kinoko, from what I can deduce, he is allergic to Amanita mushrooms. His kidney is very sensitive to them, so it will be difficult for him to move because of the pain, she said with a big smile. Hey, and since we are here, why don't we talk about girls? She asked excitedly. Kendo, huh? Yes, why not? What do you want to talk about? He asked while looking at the little mushroom. Kinoko, I don't know, what about boys? I think Midoriya is cute, she said with a tender smile and a small blush. Kendo, now that you mention it, Midoriya is a bit cute, as well as noble with his companions. Kinoko, how do you know? She asked, confused. Kendo, do you think he wouldn't have attacked us the very moment he found us? She asked with a slight mocking smile. Kinoko, yes, from what I found out, it was because now we will be your partners, right? She asked so that Kendo would nod. Kendo, he says it's against his morals to hurt his allies, so he won't hurt us any more if we fight. Kinoko, but no one can beat you in combat, you are an expert in martial arts, she said with a big smile so that Kendo just laughed a little. Kendo, I don't think I'm an expert, but thank you for thinking that. She said this so Kanoko would nod. Kanoko, now, which guy would you like to date? She asked with a flirtatious smile. Kendo, yeah, well, even though we don't know him very well, I feel that a good option would be me. The wall was broken. Kendo couldn't finish speaking, and like Kanoko, they quickly backed away when they saw Izuku cross it. Izuku, I found you, he said with an irritated smile. Kendo, Komori now. Izuku, no shit. The green-haired boy couldn't continue because he felt his breathing suddenly stop. He just turned to look at Kanoko as he began to cough hard, trying to catch his breath, but he couldn't. Kanoko just started laughing with a bit of passive madness as she watched the green-haired boy run out of air on the ground. Izuku, shit, if I lose, the plan is gone, he thought while holding his neck tightly, trying to catch his breath. Remember, Izuku, no cut is fatal. If you know how to treat it in time, it doesn't matter if they cut an important vein, apart from your brain or even your neck, although in this case I don't recommend it very much, it's very difficult. But is it possible? Izuku asked as they both looked at the horizon. Yes, I know, it's risky, but it is, but oh well, we have to go kill those bastards. The strange man threw himself off the top of the building just like Izuku. Izuku, it's either die or win, Izuku said with difficulty so that both girls would put their celebrations aside and see him. Everyone saw at that moment how Izuku tore off the other sleeve that remained of his suit, and they were scared. They knew he would hurt himself somehow, but they shouldn't worry, he wouldn't hurt himself mortally. Everyone watched in shock as the knife coming out of his hands slowly began to pierce his neck. Kendo, no, what are you doing? Kendo asked, scared. Izuku, I just need an opening. Everyone watched in surprise, fear, and disgust as Izuku opened a part of his neck where blood began to flow, but also a pink smoke began to come out of it. Kanoko, the spore, she said, scared. Kendo, oh, what do you mean by the wife? Kendo couldn't continue because just like Kanoko, she felt a hand on the back of her neck. Izuku forcefully hit the heads of both girls. The sound was dull and everyone heard it, like two coconuts colliding with each other. The foreheads of both began to bleed and Kanoko quickly fell to the ground, but Kendo, although stunned, was still standing. Izuku took the sleeve of his uniform and tied it delicately around his neck so as not to impede the good transfer of air, and with a smile he stood in front of Kendo just like he is in a guard. Kendo, why, you're crazy, she said with a nervous smile. Izuku, no, I just can't lose. Kendo took a few steps back on the verge of unconsciousness but did not break her guard, and Izuku did not back away. He ran towards her. Kendo tried to hit her but the dizziness made her see double. Izuku hit her face, causing Kendo to step back to the point of falling, sitting on the ground. Kendo tried to get up but he wasn't fast enough. A knife was placed on his neck, making him raise his hands, but it didn't take long because he fell unconscious. Izuku, these girls, they gave me a lot of trouble, he whispered while breathing heavily. Izuku Midoriya is the winner. He is officially a student of Class B, Nisa said through the speakers. Izuku simply ignored him and carried both girls, Kanoko in his arms and Kendo on his back. Kanoko, pretending to be unconscious, simply snuggled into his strong arms, and Kendo had definitely fallen unconscious. Some stretchers arrived at the camera area to take both girls away, although everyone watched with a drop of sweat as Kanoko came down from the green-haired boy's arms with a big smile. In the end, the only one transported was Kendo, thus ending the class fights. Hey, old man, welcome to the hero's course, Kirishima said, hugging Shinso by the shoulder. Same here, Midoriya. Welcome to the hero course, Monoma said with a slight smile. Thanks, friend, Izuku said so that Monoma would nod. Shinso, but you have to go now, Midoriya. You have a lot of work to do, he said this so that Izuku agreed and started running to the exit. We'll make you a welcome dinner at the dorms, don't miss it, Setsuna shouted so that Izuku simply raised his thumb. Everyone watched in shock as he began to climb the walls of the place, and, using parkour, he left there. Well, let's rest and then prepare everything for Zuku's party, Setsuna said so everyone agreed and began to leave from there. Nizu just watched everything with a smile. The first step of the plan was complete. Now all that remains is to leave everything in time to see what happens. Your death is near, Vlad. Unfortunately, Miss Shiozaki will have to give her life for your assassination. She will give her life for the good of all. as well as her mother Ha. The legacy of the assassins is curious, said Niza, getting down from the place of the speakers. Elsewhere. So he is here in Japan? Yes, Miss Tadama Shiozaki, he is at the UA. Tadama, my daughter, how is she? She's fine, studying in the UA Hero course. Tadami, fine, I need that idiot to protect my daughter. A wave of Templars will come to Japan, and will kill all the descendants. That includes him, his disciple, and my daughter. Even if it hurts me, the idiot is stronger than me, so I will leave everything in his hands. In the death of the white robe. Tadami, that's your new nickname, huh? You have style, he said, laughing a little. Well, let's go to UA. I want to see my daughter. You want to see him too, right, miss? Tadami, I'd be lying to you if I told you no. I love the idiot like a nephew or a younger brother. He's my family, not by blood, but by pact, she said, showing her ring finger only to see that it was a metal prosthesis. I just want to know one question, Miss Tadami. Is little Ibara a murderer? Tadami, no, I never wanted him to be, and even if I wanted to, it's too late now. His belief in God will prevent him from taking lives, no matter who it is. But Mr. Midoriya is also a believer in God and is a murderer. Tadami, the idiot made a pact. He can't break it no matter how much he wants. But my daughter, I don't want that brat to be involved in this world, and I won't allow it. She said this so that the strange man would nod. Well, okay, let's go. He said this so that Tadami would nod. Tadami, you also want to see it, right? She asked with a slight smile. You know very well why. Tadami, hey, since when is that trust? She asked sarcastically. The strange man just sighs. Ma'am, what do you think will happen when he finds out? He asked, lowering his gaze. Tadami, I don't know, Hisashi. He will kill you again, or he will hug you asking for forgiveness. Hisashi, he chose the creed over his family, and yet I still love him. Tadami, it's normal for parents. My daughter was very rebellious in her primary stage, but I still love her with all my love. It's inevitable. But look now, we had a good conversation and even the director congratulated me for the good behavior that she has, he said, laughing a little. Hisashi, I would like, I don't know, to invite him for a beer, chat with him about girls he might like, teach him how to shave, but he can already do that, and much more. Izuku buried his hidden blade in the neck of the subject he had been ordered to execute. Hisashi, he's a full-fledged killer, and there's nothing I can do to keep him from that path. He saw his body fall for a moment, bleeding out, and slightly staining his white tunic red. He simply joined his hands in a sign of prayer and prostrated himself for a moment. Hisashi, he can no longer return to the path of good. Izuku got up from the ground and left through the same window. Hanging from the railing of the building's flag, he was able to jump to the other side without being detected, and using the fire escape he began to descend the building while slowly taking off his robe and putting it in his backpack to put on his janitor uniform again. I was walking quietly through the streets of Japan, passing by a shop first. From that shop I took out 2 small boxes from which a rose and 2 chocolates each stood out with the inscriptions of I'm sorry. So approximately 30 minutes passed until he finally arrived at UA, and as he was informed he arrived at his new dormitories. Izuku upon entering could see everyone sitting at the table with a large plate of katsudon in the middle. How do you? Monoma, Shinso, he said this so Izuku would start laughing a little. Izuku, that idiot. With a small smile Izuku just walked to the table and taking off his cap he sat next to the gray-haired girl. Between her and Yui, since it was the only available place, he monitored a bit and saw how Kanoko was fine, only with a small bandage on his forehead, but Kendo did have a considerably larger one. Izuku at that moment just got up from his seat and taking one of the boxes, handing them out, caught everyone's attention. Izuku, I am sorry for hurting you, please take this as an apology. Everyone watched with a little tenderness as Izuku lowered his gaze with a blush, holding out both boxes. Although they were a little confused, it was a completely different attitude than before, but they let it pass. Izuku, Nizu, you are a son of a hitch, this annoying man thought. Memory. Remember, young man, you don't have to show your true self. No one should know who Izuku Midoriya really is, Nizu said so that the green-haired boy nodded while they both had a cup of tea. Izuku, How I hate you, he thought with a slightly forced smile, but came out of his thoughts when he felt how both boxes were taken. Kinoko, why you didn't have to bother him, Midoriya, she said with a shy blush. Kendo, yes, you didn't have to be upset. We're not upset with you, but thank you, she said with a big smile but also a small blush. Izuku, why you don't have to thank me, he said with a big blush, touching everyone. Dinner continued calmly with Izuku telling things about his life, making friends and telling jokes among everyone. Izuku's attitude outside of combat was extremely pleasant. After dinner everyone said goodbye and went to their room, where Izuku for the first time in the day was able to relax, falling into his bed. Izuku, shit, finally he said, closing his eyes. But Izuku couldn't continue because his phone started ringing. Izuku, now what? He asked with a big sigh, answering hello. Nizu, young Midoriya. Izuku, what do you want? Nizu, plan report. Izuku, they consider me someone tender and nice. Because of their contractions and actions they fear me and at the same time trust me, just as you wanted. Nizu, well, what about Miss Yanagi? Izuku, it's the first day, I can't get anything. Nizu, young Midoriya, you forget your greatest strength, your appearance, someone handsome, and tend according to them. You can conquer that girl today if you wanted, but I need you to go slow, and right now I need you to have a moment with her. I don't care what you do, I need you to become friends. Izuku, but Nizu, this one just hangs up. I don't know why I keep putting up with that stupid rat, Izuku said with a big sigh. Then the green-haired boy got up from his bed and looked at himself for a moment in the mirror, cracking his neck and slightly beginning to tremble. Izuku, okay, I'm ready. He left his room and after crossing a few doors he reached the one he wanted. He knocked lightly. If she was asleep he didn't want to disturb her, that would make it more difficult, but luckily for him the door was opened. Midoriya? Reiko asked, confused. Izuku, BB, good night, Reiko. Reiko, yes, what can I help you with? Izuku, I wanted to know if you would let me spend a while with you, she asked, lowering her head with a big blush. Reiko, and why? She asked with her typical face but with a slight crimson tint on her cheeks that was almost unnoticeable. Izuku, I'm as scared of the darkness, he said, turning his gaze a little embarrassed. Shit, Reiko thought with a big blush that she could control. Oh, okay, come in, I was going to watch a movie, do you mind? Izuku, and no, not at all, we can watch it together if you want, he asked, so that Reiko nodded with a slight smile, and so they both entered the room. Well, a little forced, but excellent, Nizu said, watching through the hidden cameras what had just happened. But Nizu turned off the cameras and quickly answered a call on his computer when he saw the notification. Nizu, good evening, sir, he said while bowing. Log, the voice said. Nizu, well, Mr. Midoriya, you think I'm on your side. I gave you the mission to assassinate Vlad. Reasons? Nizu, the moment I do that will be the exact moment when the police will be in my office talking about improving the security of the academy. The moment Vlad's neck is sliced, Izuku Midoriya will be caught and taken to jail, and he will simply disappear, if you know what I mean. That's an excellent plan, congratulations, Nizu. Nizu, thank you, sir, and by the way, sir, is your daughter aware of the plan? No, as I told you, I need her not to know, to fall deeply in love with him, so that she can't stop him. After taking him to jail, the plan will be revealed to her. She will be upset with me, but more with Midoriya, and accepting his position as the new leader of the Knights Templar. His first order, guess what it will be? Nizu, kill Izuku Midoriya. Exactly, Izuku Midoriya's bite will be in the hands of the same people who loved him. Reiko Yanagi, my precious daughter, he said, laughing a little. Fine, keep me informed of everything until tomorrow, Nizu. Nizu, see you tomorrow, sir. Nizu simply hung up the call after receiving the authorization, and with a smile he simply took out his notebook. Nizu, a child won't give me orders. In that notebook there were 2 photos, one of Izuku, another of Reiko, both marked with an X, while Nizu began to laugh lightly, closing the notebook with the small lock that it had. Elsewhere. The girl hugs the little box tightly and blushes deeply, and puts the rose next to it. Midoriya, the girl whispered with a big blush to simply close her eyes and finally sleep. We are praying our brother and P. He has never felt love in his life. It was a large chapel. Everything was very beautiful. The candles illuminated with splendor and beauty the couple who were in front of the priest. This child will be blessed by God himself, and under the legion of assassins of Italy, I name him Izuku Midoriya, both parents said. Izuku Midoriya, the child blessed by God, the father shouted while men in white robes knelt down with one arm on their chest as respect for the newborn. Altair, Altair. The reincarnation of Altair, the brightest star in the constellation Aquila. Father smoked Izuku in the fireplace while his father held the hand of his newly delivered wife. Altair, Altair. The successor to Ego Vision, the faithful servant of Assassin's Creed. Altair, Altair. The hooded men shouted his name with fury while the little boy only cried like any newborn. But his crying stopped at one moment. The father watched with a smile as his eyes opened and his green pupils shone brightly. He who freed Italy, France and the world from the Templars. Izuku Midoriya, Altair. In this world rotten by heroes and high officials, the revolution will free the people from the oppression of worldly sovereigns. Altair, Altair. The father just pulled the little boy away from the smoke that had begun to lightly burn his back, and not a grimace of pain was shown on his being. You will be someone very big, child, you will be the ultimate weapon, said the father, as he raised the child before all the assassins and, kneeling, they received the newborn member. To kill, one for all, and all for one. 8 years later. It was his birthday, a very special day for him and such a tragic day at the same time. 5 years ago my parents died at the hands of a Templar. I don't have much left to celebrate, said the little boy while playing his guitar slowly and without any chords. Come on, Izuku, life is only one, and you can't stay tied to the past, said a tall man while ruffling his hair. I know, Sekijiro, but it's always painful to remember them. I know it hurts, boy, believe me, all of us in this association have lost many people at the hands of the Templars. That's why you have the duty to stop them, so that no one else goes through what you went through, he said with a small smile, looking at the little boy who only saw the sky. Live life without worries, Izuku whispered. Exactly, you should not keep yourself tied to something that reminds you of your bad past. A murderer from birth is alone. He has no one. You and your weapon are the only connection you can have with someone. My hidden blade, Izuku said, looking at the piece of leather tied to his wrist. Now that I think about it, why did you choose one of the weakest weapons? He asked, confused. A weapon does not make a killer, the killer forges the weapon, Izuku said, so that Sekijiro laughed with a little grace and pride. Good there, boy, you're doing very well. But well, I think it's time to continue with your training. He said this so that Izuku nodded, and getting down from the fence where they were both sitting, they began to walk towards the green field full of trees. In my life many things have happened. When I was 3 years old, my parents died. Because of me, a misuse of my ability was the only thing that was enough for both of them to fall. I feel sorry for my mother, but my traitorous bastard of a father, I don't regret anything. I don't want you to go, the little boy whispered as he watched his coach take his bags. In Japan there are Templars, Izuku. I can't stay here. I will go to war. I need to earn the title as a hero, and I can't wait years studying. I need to do it in the fastest way. At least just tell me what your hero name will be, so we can meet again someday. Vlad King, this will be my name, he said with a small smile, so Izuku raising his fist. When I become a murderer, when I lose my finger, I will go to Japan, and we will meet again. Leave me some Templars, Izuku said with small tears while Sekijiro acknowledged. I don't promise to leave you any, boy, take care, we'll see each other in Japan, he said, boarding the ship while Izuku was taken by the one who would be his new master. We promise to meet again. I promise to meet you again so we could be assassins together. Altair, Altair. At the age of 15, he was about to do it. It was the final stretch. Altair, Altair. They passed him a knife to achieve this, and sign his pact as a murderer. Altair, Altair. This is for you, Vlad. Izuku screamed loudly as the blade fell towards his hand, separating his ring finger from it. Welcome to the Legion. A white robe was handed to him. Izuku at that moment with his bloody finger and numb hand took it and put it on, officially coming. Like the new Altair. That day, that very idea was going to reveal everything to you, that I did remember you, and above all that I always saw you as a father, but I think it would be very high capacity for you to go. I never knew why, I never knew when, but the mission of killing you was entrusted to me, and I don't know what to do. My belief allows me to refuse. You killed an innocent person, why? Izuku was shedding light tears as he had the gray-haired girl lying on his chest with a smile due to how warm his companion's body was. She was asleep. Sleep did not allow her to watch the entire movie. At what moment? Izuku began to caress the girl's hair, making her snuggle closer to him, but Izuku didn't feel any warmth. When did I become this? In emotions. Reiko slowly opened her eyes gently, feeling the sway of the boy next to her. A big blush formed in her. She couldn't help it, seeing him there asleep, that face so fine and mature. Who would say that that boy is a bundle of nerves? Reiko quickly moved away from him. She didn't even know him, although for some reason when doing that action she felt a deep regret. She saw that the boy hadn't woken up, so as if her life depended on it, she snuggled up to him again. The warmth he gave her was so familiar. A lost look at the ceiling of her room was what the girl possessed, while she unconsciously leaned more and more on the boy's chest until she was completely lying on her legs. Why am I doing this? It was the question Reiko asked herself as she looked up only to see Izuku breathing calmly, immersed in a deep sleep. It is very comfortable. Reiko just snuggled up to him as she slowly closed her eyes and Izuku opened his. Everything is going according to plan, Izuku thought as he watched the girl with a small smile sleeping in the "I'm sorry, but that's how things are." He showed no remorse, and he showed no guilt either. Even though he did feel them, he felt the regret of having to fall in love with an innocent girl, and he was even doubting whether his creed wanted that, but he can't avoid that belief. He must kill Vlad. Even if he doesn't want it. Elsewhere. Nizu walked through a quiet and inhospitable place. There was no one around him, until the swords were raised upon his arrival. "Good afternoon," Sir Nizu said calmly as he watched the man approach him. "Good afternoon, Nizu. Why did you want to see me?" he asked, confused. "I need to review the plan with you, personally. The chief of the Templars has no time for this, he must." "Shut up," he said, "this mysterious man?" At that moment the guard simply closed his mouth, and did not speak any more and only limited himself to holding his weapon. "What does Nizu want to review?" he asked, confused. "Many topics, such as, do you really want to involve Miss Yanagi in this plan?" Nizu asked seriously. Reiko Yanagi, future leader of the Knights Templar and sovereign of Japan, is obviously included in this plan, he said with a serious and cold look. "Okay, sir, whatever you say, just don't blame me when something bad happens to you." "Are you threatening me, Nizu?" the boss asked angrily. "No, but Izuku Midoriya is not nicknamed the Death of the White Robe for nothing. He is someone to be feared, and no, I do not think he will fall in love with Miss Yanagi. The first moment he discovers this, he will slit his throat, and no one will be able to stop it. Oh, believe me, Nizu, Altair will fall in love with my daughter, and will not be able to do anything the moment she takes control." "I don't think so, sir." Izuku Midoriya did not even hesitate to accept the mission to kill his father. His creed, the assassin's creed, is greater than any family or love bond for him. That's why I don't think that. "Shut up, Nizu, and leave me alone. I know what I'm doing," the boss said, raising his voice. "Fine, as you command, sir." Nizu simply bowed and turned around. He was ready to leave, but... "Oh, and Nizu, I need you to gather the students who are Christians in your academy, on the rooftop." "May I ask why, sir?" Nizu asked, intrigued. "Easy, we'll sacrifice them." "What?" "Oh no, sir, if that happens the academy will collapse." "No, Nizu will do it. Humans are so idiots that by being called the most prestigious academy in the world you will not be blamed, the villains will be blamed. I give you an example, any academy, they would blame it, the academy, for not having enough security. An academy like UA, which has not had attacks in years. It will be because of powerful villains. The human mind is a clay doll, Nizu. It can be molded to the taste and whim of whoever wants, so follow that order. And tomorrow I want those students there. One of my infiltrators will put them to sleep so they do not escape. She has the perfect quirk for it." The Templar chief simply took a half step and returned to where his companions were, and climbing onto his horse he saw Nizu for the last time. "Your life depends on my daughter's life. so I don't want anything to happen to her, he said with a mocking smile to whip the horse, and kicking hard he began to disappear from Nisa's sight. "But you, a girl won't give me orders." He simply headed back where he came from to begin heading back to his academy. He had many things to think about, many people to call, but before anything else he simply picked up his phone and made a call. "Yes, Director?" "Aizawa, yes, for church matters and faith learning I need you to gather all the Christian students of the academy, can you?" "Yes, Director, although I should ask, but I don't care, what do I tell them?" "Tomorrow morning on the UA roof, they will do activities." "Okay, Director, I'm going to your notice." "Thanks, Aizawa," Nisa said as he hung up. He gave a big sigh. He didn't know what to do. He was in a so-called place of decisions. He didn't know what to choose: do good and tell Izuku the whole truth, even if it cost him his life, or to be ruled by a brat, as he calls her, and his pride doesn't allow him to choose any. He simply put away his cell phone and, with another heavy sigh, began to walk back to his academy. His stride, like his height, was short. He couldn't go any further, and he simply disappeared into the distance of that great forest. Wow, how interesting. A boy was playing with an apple in his hand while he watched the director leave. He had heard everything. With Izuku. Izuku simply watched Reiko sleep on his lap, and without wasting time his eyes began to move around the room. Using his main and best instinct of all, deduction, he knew several things that would be important to him later. He noticed how the girl began to open her eyes slightly, so he just gave a heavy sigh and lightly cracked his neck. "Gee, good morning, Yanagi." Reiko blushed slightly seeing him again, seeing him there, so innocent and shy. It was kind of cute to a certain extent. "Gee, good morning, Midoriya. Did you sleep well?" she asked, confused and slightly worried. "Why, yes, you must think I'm a coward, right?" he asked, lowering his gaze a little. "No, Midoriya, I don't think that. We are all afraid, some worse than others, but they are fears, and I'm glad you came. We even had a little fun," she said with a tender smile. Izuku widened his eyes slightly with a light blush but simply cleared his throat. "Why, Yanagi, I was wondering, well, Jay, only if you want." "Yes?" she asked, confused. "Go out with me," Izuku shouted with a big blush on his face. What?" Reiko asked with a big blush on her face. "Since I entered the UAIV, saw you at the sports festival. Why, you seemed good to me. Why, you seem very pretty. And I wanted to know if you, well, only if you want to go out with me?" Izuku covered his face with a big blush on his face. Reiko at that moment, although swallowing hard, only removed the green-haired boy's arms from her face and took his hands. Sure, let's just have breakfast and go wherever you want," she said with a smile and a little blush. "Why, yes, I'll let you get ready. I'll go do the same." At that moment Reiko just nodded with a tender smile and accompanied the green-haired man to the door. He with a nervous smile just said goodbye to her, while her door closed completely. "What an effective Midoriya!" Her blush disappeared as well as her smile, and lightly touching her ear she simply began to walk. "I always work fast, Director. I don't have time to waste." "I know that, Mr. Midoriya. Fine, now I need you to go down and have breakfast with your classmates who are having breakfast right now. I need you to make friends. I need them to love you." "Well, Direct, I leave it." "Well, Mr. Midoriya, good luck." Izuku felt the voice leave the microphone, and even with the laziness of just waking up, he lowered it. "Well, Shiozaki, it will be on the rooftop. There will be activities, don't miss it." "Yes, Professor," Aizawa Ibra replied with a tender smile. At that moment Aizawa just nodded, and without paying attention to anything else he left. Izuku at that moment was confused, but it was not his business to ask, so he just went completely down the stairs so that everyone could see him. "Hey Midoriya bro, how is the new student of Class B?" Kami Tetsu invited with a big smile. At that moment Izuku took a big breath. "Well, thank you," he said with a shy smile so that everyone agreed, and Kendo stepped aside to give him room. "I can't escape from this anymore," Izuku thought as he sat next to Kendo, and faking a smile he began to chat with him. Elsewhere. "Director Nizu, a Templar, interesting," the boy said as he bit into the apple and wrote down a few things in his notebook. "Very interesting. We are Proshin brother and P." Everyone was having breakfast peacefully, although Izuku missed his old classmates a little. Kendo, well Midoriya, what do you plan to do now? She asked confused while calmly eating her cereal. Izuku, I don't know, G graduate, BAH hero, and that's it, she said with a slight blush, looking down. The green-haired boy quickly grabbed the black-haired girl's wrist as he felt her approaching him. No one flinched, although they found the green-haired boy's quirk somewhat curious. Those enhanced reflexes could be very useful. Izuku, sorry, why you know, he said with a nervous smile. Yui, no problem, may I? The green-haired boy simply let go of Yui's wrist, and she just started to roll her hair. The green-haired boy simply lowered her head with a blush. Remember the facade, Izuku thought, annoyed. Yui, your hair is very pretty. Yui simply began to eat her cereal, but without stopping to make rolls with the green-haired boy's hair. Everyone was a little surprised by Yui's action, but they let it pass. They wouldn't lie in saying that they were also curious to do that with the boy's hair. It was very curly. Ibara, well then I think I'll go get ready. The activity will be in an hour and a half. Enough time, she said with a tender smile, joining her hands, thanking for the food and then getting up from the table. Izuku, activity? He asked, somewhat confused and a little uncomfortable, having the brunette on his back caressing his hair. Kendo, yes, Professor Aizawa came to inform about an activity for those of Christian religion on the roof of the building. Oh, and before we forget, the students except for them have a meeting in the main courtyard of the UA. Izuku, and may I know what that meeting will be for? He asked, confused. At that moment everyone became a little confused. His face turned serious, in a single instant. Kendo, I don't know, they just said it would be for Christian people, she said, a little nervous. The brunette had to get off the green-haired boy when she felt him get up from the table. A little confused, she simply separated from him. Yui, did Midoriya bother you? She asked, confused. Izuku, huh? Oh no, don't worry, it's not that. The green-haired boy with a calm smile just patted the girl's hair a little, making her blush slightly. Izuku, I have to go. Tell Yanagi that we will postpone what we had planned. We will see each other later, friends. The green-haired boy left without giving any explanation, slowly disappearing from everyone's sight. Setsuna, that was weird, she said, confused, so everyone agreed. Kinoko, I think maybe he's bipolar. Monoma, maybe, going from that shyness to that seriousness in a single moment, is something strange, he said without paying much attention while eating a spoonful of his cereal. Kendo, now that I think about it, we don't know anything about Midoriya. We only know his name and his quirk, she said, a little curious. Yui, at first it was the same with us, just give him a little more time, he will gain confidence in us, he said, returning to his seriousness so that everyone agreed to continue eating. Elsewhere. Next stop, Japan, Mizurufu. Hisashi, well, miss, we're almost there. Is there anything you'd like to do when you get there? He asked, confused. Tatami, I want to go to a McDonald's. Hisashi, really, miss? A top-ranking assassin, with over 500 Templars annihilated in her name and the title of the strongest assassin, do you want to go get a hamburger? He asked with a small drop of sweat. Tatami, come on, Hisashi, we are assassins, not animals, we also eat. Besides, I will take a hamburger to Ibara and Izuku, she said with a smile. Hisashi, fine ma'am, as you order, he said with a light laugh. But his laughter, like his face, furrowed. What will I do when I see you, son? Izuku, Hisashi whispered under his breath, as he lowered his head and squeezed the tube he was holding tightly. Tatami, oh, what will I do when I see you, Ibara? I haven't seen your face in 5 years. I want to see how much you've grown. If at least you have a boyfriend or someone that I have to hit to make it clear to him that he shouldn't hurt you or I'll kill him. I want to see you now, she whispered with a small smile, looking at the roof of the train. They were both murderers, one superior, the other not so much, but above all, they were both fathers of children that you love. One is sorry for the path that your son took, and no matter how hard you try, you can't get him out of it. The other feels proud of what her daughter has become. They both want to see their children, but not with the same intentions. Both children will see their parents. One will hug her, and the tears of both will be inevitable. It will be a beautiful reunion. The other will most likely kill him for the betrayal that was committed years ago to his creed and his association. The train slowly began to get dark as it passed under a bridge, and Hisashi, grateful for that, took the opportunity to shed a few small tears that were captive to his ego, an image of not wanting to appear weak, but he could no longer bear so many burdens behind him. Burdens that tormented his past. Burdens that ruined your present. And you charge that they will kill him in the future. And in his head the only thing that was happening was Izuku with his white robe stained with blood in front of him, burying a knife in his chest. Hisashi's mission was almost impossible, and he knew it, but still, he wanted to try to get his son off that path he never had to be on. With Izuku. It seems very suspicious to me that, just today, they want Christian students at the top of the academy. Shinso, May 22nd, the day the Templars fell. Izuku, exactly, do you think they want to do something to them? He asked, confused. Shinso, I think so, but the question is, who? Izuku, do you think the director has something to do with it? Shinso, no, it would risk the image of his academy too much, so he can't be. Izuku, do you think he's a Templar? He asked, crossing his arms so Shoto could let out a big sigh. Shinso, the Templars disappeared years ago, a resurgence? Izuku, could it be, just in case we should be hiding there, waiting for any suspicious movement to help them? I ask you, before everything, do you want to participate in this or should I go alone? Shinso just gives a light laugh. Shinso, you know what, old man, you told me yourself, the life of the innocent is worth more than my own life. If the Templars are going to do something to innocent people, it is our duty as assassins to stop them, he said with a smile, understanding the fist showing how his ring finger was made of metal. Izuku at that moment with a small smile just took off the glove that covered that single finger, showing that it was also made of metal. Izuku, I've taught you well, he said with a big smile, fist bumping Shinso. The clashing of metal was heard as fists clashed. Shinso, okay, that shit will start in 30 minutes, let's go. Izuku nodded and Shinso quickly pulled out a black robe from his closet, hidden among many boxes. Izuku, okay, ready? Shinso agreed, let's go. We are Prompicabes pre-solves. Both ran through the UA dormitories, jumping delicately and discreetly, avoiding being seen by anyone who passed by. If someone alerted them of their presence, the plan would fail. They woke up from the darkness that had plunged them into unconsciousness. They slowly tried to stand up, but some bonds prevented them from doing so. Ibra, what's going on? She asked, confused. Nothing, girl, they will just be sacrificed. Ibra, what? Ibra asked, scared. Just as you hear it, so that all of Japan can be clear, that the only accepted religion will be that of the Templars, so do not worry. If everyone reacts, your death will serve to save many lives, isn't that great? Ibra was afraid. That man's smile was not good at all, and his intentions were not so good either. There were two Templars. One looked at the hostages with grace and the other watched with a calm smile as the students began to line up in the courtyard. Is everything ready? He asked, confused. Okay, everything is ready for the sacrifice and the rebirth, he said with a sharp smile. Izuku, shit, we have to hurry, we only have 15 minutes, he said, annoyed while climbing some fire stairs. Shinso, okay, we'll arrive in 10, don't worry, but what will we do when we get there? Izuku, see the amount, we'll go for half each, I'll go left, you'll go right, understood? He asked this so that Shinso would nod. Good, remember the creed. Shinso, the innocent is sacred, I protect it with my life. My life does not matter if the innocent is in decline. I will save my life from murder and free my life. Izuku, the innocent is sacred, it is to protect it with life. My life does not matter if the innocent is falling, it will be my duty as an assassin to save him and give mine. Shinso, it sounds better in Italian, he said with a small smile. Izuku, this is no time for jokes, Shinso, we must arrive as soon as possible. I don't want to imagine everything those kids must be going through. Shinso, well. They both ran to the edge of the building and without hesitation threw themselves off. Izuku managed to grab onto the fire escape stairs and Shinso took his hand since he didn't jump that high. Izuku, it would have cost you your life, you know? He asked with a small mocking smile. Shinso, did he do it? Izuku, no, so let's continue. He said this to throw Shinso with force, and both began to climb quickly. Shinso, do you realize that we are practically heading towards our death? He asked with a slight smile. Izuku, I've realized that since I removed my finger. Shinso, hey, what would you name him if you had a son? He asked, confused. Izuku, oh, what's happening so suddenly? He asked as he pushed himself to climb faster. Shinso, I don't know, I was curious as to what name one of the best assassins of the Creed, who has more than 500 people at his disposal, and who does not show any affection towards anyone, would give his son. Izuku, hey bro, words hurt. He said this so Shinso would start laughing, but I don't know, maybe Ankaku, or something like that. Shinso, can you imagine that your great-great-grandson is also called that? He asked, confused. Izuku, why all of a sudden? He asked, confused. Shinso, I don't know, haha, I like to talk about nothing. Izuku, you have a problem, my friend, he said, laughing a little. Shinso, I know, well, damn it, hurry up, that shit is about to start, he said, getting serious so that Izuku doing the same started running after him. The students had begun to line up, chatting among themselves. They had nothing else to do as it began. The Christians tried to scream for help, but being gagged and tied up, they couldn't do much. Okay kids, do you know why you're here? He asked, confused. Groans were coming from everyone, they couldn't speak. Oh yes, it's true. I forcefully tear the tape off the mouth of one of the girls present. And Midoriya will stop them, she said angrily, calling the attention of a certain girl who recognized that name. Oh yeah, and who is it, Midoriya? He asked, confused. He's the strongest in the UA. He'll come and beat them up when he sees that they have captive me, she said, scared. Oh look, she's in love, said one of the Templars mockingly, approaching the girl dangerously. Don't come near me, she whispered in fear. You will be the first on the guillotine, he said with a mocking smile, grabbing the girl's hair tightly, making her moan in pain. At that moment everyone began to cry in fear when they saw the artifact that came through the doors, a wooden lever, with a headrest, and a sharp blade to cut it. Okay, start talking, he said with a grim smile, pulling the girl by force to step on her and make her head end up on the guillotine. The students finished chatting and got into their lines when they saw an older man who looked like a professor standing at the edge of the UA with a megaphone. They assumed it was the one from the meeting. Good morning, young people, how are you? The man asked calmly. Good, they all shouted with a smile. Well, I'm sure you're wondering. What are you doing here? Right. He asked with a calm smile so that everyone would nod. Well, I want to talk to you about the Templars. Templars? What's that? The murmurs were not long in coming. I know you are confused, but let me inform you, the Templars were glorious knights, who fought against ancient murderers who covered their vile acts with the morality of defending the innocent, when what they did was leave the people without food, and without water, without power, completely depending on them. Tetsu, wow, it seems that those murderers were bad people. Indeed, young man, so that is why, today, we formally want to force you to serve with your life the Knights Templar, the new order of Japan. At that moment, everyone stepped back in fear, seeing knights in white and red cloaks with a strange cross on their chests coming out from different places, cornering them. Surely you will wonder, why can't I use my quirk? Well, it's easy, so that they don't interfere with the sacrifice. At that moment, everyone saw with fear their companions, tied up and crying, while a girl from General Courses was placed on the guillotine. This will happen to those who belong to and serve the Templars. The heroes began to climb the stairs in fear. They couldn't even use their quirks, and they were afraid they wouldn't arrive in time. So, see what will happen to them. The rope holding the guillotine was cut by the guy's sword. Everyone closed their eyes in fear, and the girl simply smiled tenderly. I'm sorry I didn't tell you how I felt, Izuku. He closed his eyes, waiting for his death, which never arrived. Everyone was confused when they saw how the guillotine lowered him, a blade blocking his way. What? One of the Templars asked angrily. Izuku, I've been wanting to kill more of you for a long time, rookie, now. Shinso, yes. Everyone watched in shock and hope as the white-hooded man kicked one of the Templars and quickly pushed the girl aside, taking her out of the guillotine, without waiting for a response, and without waiting for anything. He made the Templars tremble with that look, a green look that penetrated their souls, stabbing them with 1,000 knives. Now attack, 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 attack! The Templars quickly began to run towards the students, but Izuku threw small blades from the ceiling. They ended up drilling their heads, and Shinso finished the job with the rest. Both senior Templars quickly drew their swords, and Izuku simply stood guard in front of them, and began to walk calmly. They drew their swords, everyone watched in fear as they were going to pierce him, and as if he already knew where the sword would go, he turned around dodging both of them and putting a hand on the neck of one of the subjects, and it simply fell to the ground, with a hole in his neck as blood began to flow out. "I killed him!" a frightened student shouted. "Shinso, what did you expect? That I would put him in jail? You still have a lot to learn about life, kid. Now go." "Kendo, killing is not the way," this annoying girl shouted. "Shinso, should they kill her or him? What do you decide?" Kendo just stood there in silence, thinking, and with nothing else to say, he just ran away. "Shinso, I thought so," he said, dodging a sword straight to his chest. "Izuku, it's just you and me left," he said seriously as he watched the Templar wield his sword. "The Assassin's Creed will not be able to do anything. The Templars will once again dominate Japan and the world, and no one will be able to rebel against our dictatorship," this annoying man said. "Izuku, as long as I exist." Everyone fell silent. The sonar of an eagle was heard throughout the UA, and Izuku simply smiled. "Izuku, Japan will never fall to your dictatorship." The Templar quickly ran towards the green-haired man, and he did the same. Using the same guillotine, he placed his feet on the wood of it, turning 360 degrees above the Templar, and when he fell right on his shoulders, burying his hidden blade in his head, killing him instantly. But in the last stretch of adrenaline, Izuku felt a sharp pain, with force coming from his right side. A sword had been buried in him. "Izuku, shit," he whispered, falling to his knees on the ground. The girl who was going to be killed quickly ran towards the green-haired man, and in fear she prostrated herself before him. Don't move, I am going to heal you," she whispered with fear. "Izuku, Mimosa." "Mimosa, yes, it's me. Please don't die, don't die. I have something to tell you, but I have to heal you first." Her tears began to fall hard. She was afraid of losing him, but Izuku simply caressed her face with a small smile, making the girl simply nod confidently. Some bright green bushes covered in flowers grew out from behind her, covering them both so that no one could see the identity of her beloved. She laid him down on the ground and took his hand tightly. "Mimosa, this will hurt you a lot," she said worriedly. "Izuku, pain has been with me since I was born, so I just, The green-haired boy screamed loudly as he felt the sword being pulled out of his body. He couldn't help it, a few light tears of pain came out of him. Mimosa, seeing this, just started to cry. "Izuku, I'm fine, don't cry," he said, raising his thumb with a smile. Mimosa nodded and sank her hands into the green-haired boy's hands. He breathed hard, enduring the pain, a pain that he felt was being embraced by calm, which was slowly calming him down. And the girl's quirk began to take effect, healing him and beginning to close his wound. Under the worried gaze of all the hostages, they did not know what was happening. "Izuku, I'm feeling better now," he said with a calm smile. Mimosa blushed massively. She couldn't help it, seeing him there, smiling at her, with that tranquility. She couldn't stand it. But his words fell flat as he watched Izuku render him unconscious in the same way. "Mimosa, rest, Izuku, you deserve it," she whispered with a calm smile. All the students had escaped, and the teachers finally came up. The only thing they saw was Mimosa with Izuku on her back and the hostages still tied up. "Aizawa, are you okay?" he asked worriedly. "Vlad, what happened to him?" "Mimosa, he's just unconscious. I'll take him to his room," she said this so that both teachers agreed, and they began to run towards the tied-up boys. Mimosa simply started walking down the stairs with the green-haired boy. Aizawa and Vlad untied the students, but Aizawa, We must arrest Director Niza, he said this seriously. Vlad, what? Why? Aizawa, I suspect he's a Templar, he said this seriously so that Vlad simply stared blankly. Vlad, what? He asked in shock. Identity. Mimosa carried the green-haired boy to her room. She could barely support her weight, but she didn't give up until she reached the bedroom door. Quickly everyone turned to look at her, and concern showed on her face when she saw the green-haired boy all hurt and bruised. Kendo, what happened to him? She asked, scared, running towards her partner. Mimosa, one of the guys who attacked the academy hit him. Luckily I was able to heal him, but… Mimosa began to cry lightly. Caressing the green-haired boy's face, she began to make rolls with her hair. Mimosa, if he had arrived earlier this would not have happened, he would not have suffered so much. Monoma, my only doubt is this, who was able to harm Midoriya? Ibara, oh, what do you mean? She asked, confused. Tetsu, we saw it before, Midoriya is not someone weak. Being a Quirkless, he managed to defeat people who were supposedly capable of stopping him, without even breaking a sweat. Whoever left Midoriya like this must be someone strong. Kendo, now that you mention it, you're right, and if so, who was it? Everyone was silent, searching for ideas of some known villain who could be involved in this, but nothing, no clue. Reiko, that doesn't matter now, we must take Midoriya to his room, he is very hurt, he must rest. Mimosa, I can't be here, I have to go to my dorms. I'll get into trouble if I stay. At that moment he left the green-haired boy on the ground for a moment, and prostrating himself there he bowed. Mimosa, could you take care of him? Please, he is very special to me, and I can't let anything happen to him, she said with small tears. But then Mimosa felt hands on her shoulders, and everyone turned to see how Reiko gently lifted her off the ground, with a tender smile. Reiko, I'll take care of him, I already have a little trust with Midoriya, don't worry, nothing will happen to him, she said, nodding calmly. Mimosa, thank you very much, really thank you very much, you don't know how much I appreciate you, she shouted between her tears, hugging the girl tightly. Reiko could do nothing but hug back for a few moments. Mimosa, well, I have to go, my living room must be worried. Then Mimosa simply knelt down to get to where the green-haired boy was and gently kissed his forehead. Mimosa, get well soon, Izuku, I'll come see you later. And Mimosa, waving her hand, said goodbye to everyone who matched the action with the girl's departure. They stayed silent for a while. Tetsu simply supported the green-haired boy better so that he wouldn't have back problems later. But he stepped back a little when he saw an aura appear around the green-haired man, and he began to float at a considerable height. Reiko, I'll take him to his room, he needs to rest, she said this for everyone to nod. Kendo, I don't think he's going to say this, but I hope the hooded man has given what he deserves to the one who did this to Midoriya, she said, annoyed, for everyone to nod. Yui, you didn't notice, right? She asked this so everyone agreed. Ibara, what Kodai? She asked, confused. Yui, that guy, the one in white, is the same one we met on the rooftop weeks ago. Kendo, wait, now that you mention it, you're right, it's the same guy who broke Tetsu's medal. Ibara, he broke the medal, from Tetsu. Hey Tetsu, I have a question, between you and Kirishima from 1A, who has the strongest hardening? Tetsu, why do you want to know? He asked, confused. Ibara, just curious. Tetsu, at a time like this? Well, even though it hurts, I must admit that Kirishima is a little tougher than me. I'll give you an example. If I had faced Midoriya, he would have destroyed me in one fell swoop. Ibara and Tetsu looked at each other for a moment. They remained silent, still, and thinking. Everyone was confused by the sudden silence. Both boys quickly turned to see where the green-haired boy was, but Reiko had already taken him to her room. Tetsu, oh well, Kirishima, yes Kirishima, he said with a nervous smile. Setsuna, why did you suddenly become silent? She asked, confused. Tetsu, no wonder, I was just thinking about what Shiozaki said, haha. Setsuna, oh, it's okay, still don't feel bad, One day you will surpass the Kirishima boy, she said, raising her thumb so that Tetsu nodded with a smile. Kendo, okay, then let's go to our rooms. They told us to stay here for the rest of the day, so let's go. Class B, go to sleep, he said, giving 2 claps. Yes, Madam President, they all said in a boring tone. And above, things were a little different. Reiko was blushing deeply and felt the green-haired boy's breath on her neck. It turned out that in his dreams he had taken the girl, sticking her to him, hugging her tightly, and his strength was not easy to shake off. Izuku, why Yanagi? Reiko blushed even harder. The green-haired boy whispered dreamily right in her ear. Reiko couldn't do anything but stay still. She seemed like a rock because of how hard she was. She couldn't even move because of her nerves. Reiko, he's dreaming about me, she said in a whisper, not wanting to wake up the green-haired boy. Izuku, I like you. Reiko. He couldn't respond to anything, and thanked God that he was asleep. He wouldn't know what to do if it were a direct statement. You're doing very well, Midoriya. Izuku didn't say anything. He just frowned slightly as he snuggled up to Reiko's back and discreetly turned off his hearing aid. He wasn't asleep, he was pretending. Elsewhere. Vlad, this must be a joke, he whispered with a nervous smile. Aizawa, well, it doesn't seem like it. Tell me, Vlad, why were they able to enter the academy without us noticing? If Izuku and Shinso hadn't been there, those students would have died. Vlad, but none of that connects to Director Niza. Aizawa, he asked me to take the students to the roof. He ordered me to do it. He was the one who orchestrated all this, I'm sure. Vlad, shit, this is all very complicated, he said as he sat down in front of the table and began to run his hand over his face. What are we carrying? Aizawa, Director Niza could be a Templar, and if so, what is he looking for? They sat in silence for a while, staring at the whiteboard in front of them, all kinds of scribbles and dates, and nothing matched. Vlad, what if Izuku has something to do with it? Aizawa, oh, what do you? Vlad, the director knows that Izuku is Altair. He knows that Izuku is a murderer, so if he had been, why bring him here? Aizawa, you have a point. Vlad, why would the director want to sacrifice Christians in his academy knowing that an assassin capable of stopping an army of Templars is in it? It doesn't make sense. Aizawa, do you think it's some kind of plan? Vlad, I think the director is up to something and Izuku is being tricked. Aizawa, do you think so? Izuku being tricked by? They must not get involved in anything. Both teachers quickly went on guard upon hearing that voice. Vlad, who are you? They should not change in the future. Aizawa, the future? Well, what do you mean? Izuku Midoriya's future is to die at the hands of a Templar army, and they can't change that. Both teachers remained silent, with blank stars, in a state of shock. Vlad, how can you know that? That doesn't matter, but in 2 weeks, the Templars will invade Japan, starting with the destruction of the UA, and Izuku Midoriya's destiny is to die at the hands of that army protecting them all. Vlad, we won't let him die. It's not what you want, it's what has to happen. The voice came and went, without a trace it simply disappeared from that room. Aizawa, we're not safe talking here. Vlad, if we're right, nowhere in the academy is safe. Aizawa, then let's go to my house. Emmy will surely help us with something, he said so that Vlad nodded, and so they both started running from there. Elsewhere. Tetsu, are you sure about what you're saying, Shiozaki? She asked, confused. Ibara, I was there. Tetsu, I saw that orange-haired girl worry about the hooded man, as she worried about Midoriya, and even Midoriya's name was whispered between her, Vlad and Aizawa. Tetsu, we're jumping to conclusions. Ibara, no, I saw the hooded man being pierced by a sword. What a coincidence that Midoriya came with a wound in the same place. I saw that guy jump over the walls and use a knife that came out of his wrist. Tetsu, no, this can't be true. Our partner can't be a murderer, he whispered in shock. Ibara, I don't want to think the same either, but the facts are clear. Midoriya is the guy with the hood. Tetsu remained silent. He had no words, no expression, only fear, and printed on his face, he did not believe that the quirkless boy he had begun to admire for his worth was a murderer. Wow, this is bad. His smile never changed, but it was more than forced. And standing in front of several screens, I saw everything that was happening. Reiko being hugged by Izuku while she caressed her hair. Nizu, that's the only good news I have right now, although it won't be of any use to me anymore. He saw the three professionals talking at Aizawa's house. He saw Tetsu and Ibra talking about the green-haired man's identity. He saw the entire UA, although he needed to see someone. Nizu, what is Hitoshi Shinso doing? Well, he's an apprentice. I don't care right now. The plan went to shit. They started to discover it. And without my revenge I won't leave. Buck the Templars, buck the assassins, me without killing Vlad I won't leave. He ran to his desk, and forcefully grabbed his microphone. Cut that brat's throat, now. Izuku, why? This confused man whispered. Just do it. Izuku without even hesitation grabbed the girl's neck forcefully and slammed her to the ground. Reiko, Midoriya? She asked, confused and a little hurt. Izuku, I'm sorry. Izuku activated his hidden blade and directed it against the girl's neck. Reiko stared blankly, blood beginning to flow. She was about to die. Tatami, I see you're still the same snotty idiot. He quickly removed the hearing aid from her ear and stomped it hard on the floor, then threw a knife at the corner of the room, where a small smoke began to come out. Reiko, what's happening? Izuku, you just interrupted a Tatami job. Tatami, Izuku, listen to me, all this time you were deceived. Izuku, oh, what do you mean? Tatami, Director Nizu is a temper, he said, leaving the green-haired boy in shock. Izuku, what? His whole world fell apart at that moment. He killed innocent people, and hurt many more, for what he thought was justice, and all this time, it turned out that he was working for the one he hates so much. Izuku, no, he whispered in fear. Tatami could only hug the boy, while tears began to come out of his eyes. Shit. Taking his chair, he slammed it against the dozen televisions that were recording the entire UA. Nizu, my plan is falling apart, and I won't go to jail, much less die. Let's see now if you can beat this, damn murderer. Throughout the UA, a piece of news reached their phones, a piece of news that mattered less to a few, but for the majority, it was a shock. Izuku Midoriya is the villain and murderer, Altair. Aner Sin Fin Pradigiction and Pration brother and part Ion and brother. Oh shit, Izuku whispered, scared as he looked at his phone. Tatami, too late, he's already started with his plan B, we have to go, now. Izuku, yes. Reiko just stayed silent. Tears began to flow from her eyes and she forcefully hit the green-haired boy's hand extended towards her to get up. Reiko, go away, I was just part of your plan, right? I don't want to see you again, she shouted, this annoying girl. Izuku, yes, you were just part of my plan. Reiko remained silent, as tears slowly began to fall from her. That boy, who she thought was going to be the first to win her heart, was a fraud, but... Izuku, but that plan went down the drain a long time ago. Do you think that? I'm going to record it, Tatami whispered, taking out his cell phone. Izuku, since I was born, I only had two loves in my life, my mother, who was my first love, the woman for whom I would give my life and fight until the end for her, and you. Reiko, what? Izuku, it was a plan of Director Nizu, to kill Vlad, whom I have always seen as a father, and I never knew that Nizu was a Templar. He asked me to deceive you, he asked me to kill Shiozaki. Tatami, what did that son of a hitch do? She asked, this annoyed. Izuku, but what I'm getting at is that I'm starting to love you, and at the moment it's not safe for you to be here. Izuku got up from the ground, and again, extended his hand. Izuku, would you give this murderer a chance to truly love you? Reiko remained silent for a while, and tears began to come out of her eyes. With those same tears, she took the green-haired boy's hand, which everyone, including Reiko, was surprised to see in him, a smile and a blush. Reiko, I'll follow you, wherever we have to go. Izuku, fine, but for now it is better that you stay in your room. Tatami already destroyed the cameras, go down quickly, and tell everyone to go into their rooms, that under no circumstances are they to come out, and tell Monoma that I will get to his room. I will need his help, he said, so that Reiko nodded and ran downstairs. Then Izuku saw both of them, his father, who for now was not important to him, and Tatami. Both nodded and ran out the window. Elsewhere. This must be a joke. Shinso watched in fear as the 1,000 Templars approached the UA. Shinso, this was supposed to happen in 2 weeks, not today. I failed again. Simulation finished. The whole world turned white, and Shinso, with his head down, only saw the whole place full of blue stripes in reality, until his eyes opened, waking up suddenly. It was a cave with a beautiful waterfall inside it, full of blue stones, very strange stones, but what stood out the most was a group of girls there. How are you? One of the many worried people there asked. Shinso, I couldn't Mimosa, I couldn't save him. Mimosa Vermilion Midoriya, daughter of the daughter of Izuku Midoriya, and Mimosa Vermilion at 16 years old due to a slightly out-of-control night. Mimosa, so. Shinso, yes, we will have to do the simulation again, for the 13th time, he sighs, this tired one. Did you see my great-great-grandmother? A girl asked excitedly. Shinso, yes, Shiozaki, it's already the 12th time I've seen her, he said this so that the girl, with a slight blush, just agreed. Sorry, I got emotional, she said, laughing shyly. Mimosa, okay, starting simulation number 13, year 3400, back to 3200 after Christ. Okay, are you ready? She asked, so Shinso agreed, and again lay down on the stone stretcher. 3, 2, 1. Everything went white again, and Shinso began to run in the clear darkness, searching for where to go. Who is it, Altair? I was running through the big buildings of the famous city of Tokyo. How can I escape from all the heroes? Nobody noticed him, his step was so soft that not even a fly flew away despite him. Even from All Might. His mission was simple: arrive, work, kill, and leave. There was no problem with his plan. Nimu Jureko, Japan's biggest drug lord, is currently enjoying himself in his raised swimming pool on the 80th floor of his personal building. A very beautiful pool that jutted out from the building. Those who looked from below could swear that it was floating water, as they did not notice the thin layer of glass that kept it stable in the air. He got up from his lounger and took off his robe. His somewhat limp and plump body was what his armed bodyguards had to see. With a little disgust at his walk, he took a dip in his pool, enjoying the refreshing water sinking him. But before going out to appreciate the view from above, simply looking down, he wanted to enjoy a good drink. So raising his hand made it clear what he wanted, and in what he waited he simply rested his hands on the edge. Okay, I think that with this, that son of a hitch will finally stop. He had a personal grudge against the man he had attacked. He was an evil person, a person who had killed thousands of people just for his own benefit, in his own words, a plague on the world. He had some adhesive bandages on his forearms which he used to climb the glass without being discovered. He reached the end of the building and where the pool's relief began. Using a rotating plate, he took out one of the ropes and tied it tightly to the structure. After that, he looked down. There was a fall of 80 floors. He took a deep breath and, peeling the bandage off the building's glass, stuck it to the pool's glass. Then he did the same with the other one. Now he was suspended. One misstep, and his death will be immediate. He began to move with his bandages until he was in the part of the pool that leads directly to the ground when falling, and there. That's where his work began. He placed the bandages firmly and with a rope began to tie knots in the holes that they had until it was like a chair. The boy sat on it, and from his briefcase he took out what seemed to be a small drill with a golden tip. Nimu slowly finished her drink, not knowing what was happening. He began to drill the glass, which, thanks to its strength, did not break. After making a small hole in the bag, I drilled what looked like a nail and fitted it right into the hole. Nimu, after finishing her drink, calmly and quietly placed her feet on the edge of her pool and pushed off so she could begin to swim to the end of it. The mysterious masked man took a small syringe from his briefcase and inserted it into the small plastic that the strange nail carried. Nimu looked down and appreciated the view. The only thing she could see was a hooded man hanging from his pool, and seconds later the glass began to crack. The boy just smiled and, taking off his bandages, let himself fall, and thanks to the rope tied to the axis, he was able to reach the same wall from which he climbed. Nimue tried to swim up quickly as she saw the glass cracking. The hooded man began to quickly turn the axis to see how the rope was attracted, and the glass broke. The water began to fall, resulting in a small whirlpool that was lost in the height. Nimue tried to go up faster, but the whirlpool attracted him, and finally, he fell. The masked man with a smile just released the rope from his waist, and thanks to the blindfold he began to slowly fall down the wall which he climbed until he reached a window through which he entered. He quickly took off his hood and put on blue janitor clothes, while I watched Nimue fall from the window. The boy walked out of the building more calmly while he watched as people began to approach with horror, fear, and disgust the mutilated body of Nimue, who had not survived the fall. Businessman and tycoon Nimue Jureko died today after falling from the 80th floor due to a fault in the glass of his swimming pool. Shinso listened to this from a radio, in his room at UA. On a radio he had, just drinking a beer, before starting his mission, for the 13th time.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.